Everyone. Um, I had made a presentation which I thought that I'll give. But when I went over the presentation, I realized that we need to change the format, especially when it comes to something like uh, prompt engineering. Uh, Simply because there is so much happening that no matter how fast you move, we all will never be able to catch up with technology as fast unless we all work together. And we have to be collaborative in the sense learning and helping each other find out, because there are so many models you can ask questions from. Every So many models coming out on a daily basis. And each model is also comes with a booklet which says this is how you must prompt a particular model, meaning that every model has a different way of prompting. Uh, ChatGPT 4 is a different prompt methodology than ChatGPT 5. And so 6 will definitely be different, meaning thereby that um, our outputs that we are expecting from uh, a chat, an AI chat model, will vary. Uh, and we'll have to keep learning, and each of us will have our own experiences. So the way I think we should work is, if I make it into a monologue where I say, all right, this is the do's and don'ts, that won't really cut through. So I thought that since all of us are now sitting here and all of us have computers, maybe we should all open a Word document, and whatever hands-on, you know, demos that I intend to offer today, we make our own document saying this model I used, this is how I prompted, this is what I got. Eventually, the we'll have to have a best practices, a book of prompts where all of us could collaboratively put our prompts and outputs, and then share them with each other. The best case scenario, obviously, eventually, not now, but in the course of a year, when we will have our own model, and that model will be trained as per Indian laws, exactly as per our requirements in terms of multilinguality and the way our laws and case laws, etc. Then we could gradually come to a particular language model which we know is made in India for India, and for which a particular prompt style will become standardized, which means that we will not have to learn all these different type of prompting techniques. And then we can settle down with one model with one type of prompting, and the variations may not be as much. So I would request right in the beginning that um, uh, so I also believe that all of us have been using some model or the other. Predominantly open chat GPT is what we all must be using on a daily basis, with you know on and off results. We'd like to have a system where if we could select a model for ourselves and learn to use it, leverage it to the best of our ability. So what I suggest here now is that all of us will also open a Word document on the side, and we will all choose from 5 or 6 different models. I do not know how many of us have used anything other than ChatGPT, but then there is Claude, then there is Gemini, then there is Perplexity, then there is OpenAI, of course, and Grok, and many more. But let's choose the top 4 or 5. What I would also suggest is that each one of us then open that model as well. And we will actually do a hands-on prompting to see what the outcome is. And also we will record the outcomes on our documents, which then we will collate and convert it into a booklet and then share it to see what, as of now, as of today, works best for us. As I say, going forward, we will have to let go all these foreign models, because to these models, we can only ask very generic questions. We cannot share with them the details of our cases or facts, because no matter how we interact with these models, they are all being trained on our data. And that is the reason why everything is being given to us for free. Because at the end of the day, they want to keep their model absolutely cutting edge, which can only happen if they could um harness all our questions, thoughts, and answers, and keep feeding them back into their system so that their model keeps keeps showing up as a top model on whatever list they have, and that is how they manage to keep their valuations intact. Going forward, also the new laws that we are going to be seeing in India regarding AI use and confidentiality and how important all these things are going to be, it will become imperative that we use maybe an Indian model, and or better still, if we could use a model, interact with AI secretly on our own laptops without anybody else, without an internet access, without anybody else getting to know, so that we can freely have a conversation, knowing very well that none of the data is going out. So if all of us agree on something like this, then I mean, let's start with everybody opening up their mics and sharing their experiences in terms of hallucinations, whatever happens, and what's been happening, so that we can steer this discussion or this demo in the right direction. I don't really want to make it into, I mean, I actually chucked my presentation for this reason itself, because it was making no sense that me saying and you hearing. That's not how, at least this subject is going to work. So anybody who'd like to share their experience, what all have we been using? And if somebody is okay with, okay. So let me start with sharing my screen, and let's try and do so let me show you the different type of models that are there. If I were to go here, screen share. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So, so all of us know that if we go to ChatGPT, but then we go here, which is chatgpt.com, and we start asking questions. Now, it's obviously better if we log in because it helps us. Otherwise, it used to ask for payments, but which it doesn't. So everything is literally free. All these big companies are shaking hands with companies like Geo, with Reliance, and everybody is trying to give their models out for free, especially for a country like India, because this is exactly where they can get their maximum amount of literally 140 crore people. Even if half of us talk to GPT, the amount of knowledge they can harness from us is phenomenal. So that is why everything is for free for us. So some of us can go to chatgpt.com and open this on the side. And how many of us are aware of the new Gemini models that are coming from Google? So if I were to go to Gemini and it says Google Gemini and it says gemini.google.com, and this is very similar to very similar to the 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 screen of ChatGPT, you find similarly with Gemini. So let's also now open. So what we'll do is let's open, let's experiment with about four of these models. You can choose any one. Let's all not choose the same model. And then we will go through the prompting technique and then we'll see how it moves on. So another big one is perplexity. So perplexity is otherwise made by an Indian guy, but perplexity is very different from Gemini or Chat GPT for the reason that perplexity has a different methodology. So each of these models try to segregate themselves from each other by choosing a different kind of technology framework from within. So, for example, perplexity does not have a model of its own. Okay, before we dive this, let's go over some basics. There is We understand AI, and all we understand basically AI means a chatbot. Chatbot means we ask a question and we get an answer. Now, behind this chatbot, which is really just the frame that we see, the interaction screen, behind this, there is a model. A model is like a black box, which has been trained on a lot of data and it knows how to answer. So what everybody now ended up doing was they ended up collecting all the data from the internet and they made their own models. Again, models behind a so-called model, there is a technical term called transformers, but we'll not go there. So what happened is that these transformers, we were playing with them for a long time. I mean, it's literally 20 years old, 15 years old technology. Uh, and we were trying to train them. So typical training is that I literally give a set of question answers. It says, all right, if somebody asks this question or something similar to this question, then this is the answer. Earlier, we used to just put all the question and answers in a database and say, all right, we have got 1,000 questions and 1,000 answers, and we are all good to go. But what we wanted really, and what has now become possible is that there is no set of questions and answers that we give to the model. So there's no database that can go to and says, select the questions. We just told him, this is what a data is. Coming back, what is a data? So for example, when we write an application petition, certain words follow certain words by default, because that is how sentences are made in English. So all these words follow each other, and transformer or the model could figure out what is the probability of which word coming after which word. So A went to school, A went to sleep. Uh, so it just figured out that there is a verb, there is a noun, and how the sentences are made. And it started making an internal chart of probability. And it became very proficient in figuring out what the next potential word could be. And therefore, when we ask him this question, it figured out, okay, all right, this is what, and if it knows the context that it's in. So for example, if it knows that it's talking to a lawyer or if it's talking to an insolvency professional, then it gets a fair amount of idea which direction he needs to start answering, and it begins to predict those words. Earlier, we thought that those word prediction is still, word prediction is just a word prediction. It could definitely go wrong. But surprisingly, and nobody knows why, it's it gives the right answer. And no matter how we ask, other than some edge cases, it's answering correctly. And it's pretty magical as to how it's doing it, because it mathematically we can call it next word prediction, but it is not really that anymore. And there is a semblance of intelligence or semblance of some kind of a consciousness. Not that we know of that. I mean, some people, there are people on both sides of the aisle. Um, but for whatever reason, these models are now such that we ask, and since they have ingested all the data of all the world, and there is no more data left other than what's in your mind or being synthetically generated by these models themselves. And that is what all these people are now after. However, so far as we are concerned, we are looking at how are we going to use it for our purposes and what purpose is that going to solve. Obviously, we want uh, our lives to become easier. If we could work faster, more intelligently, get into less trouble. Um, and that is what we are after. But we all will now have to become very careful, because uh, our regulators, if they end up using agents or models to keep an eye on us, then we will also have to work at the same level of expertise or efficiency in order to ensure that we are not caught uh, required of whatever things we may miss. And therefore, all this is going to become inevitable. We can love it, we can hate it, but we'll have to end up using it. The challenge is how to use it. And that is where many things other than prompt engineering comes into play. So prompting is like, of course, it's asking a question, but in a way, it's like programming. You ask a question, but if you ask a question properly, literally with if then else contexts and so many things that you give around it, it literally begins to look like a small piece of code. And that code is very important, especially for us, in order to keep the answers, in control, in our control. If you ask a general question, it'll give you a general answer. How are you? Oh, I'm good. It doesn't, it doesn't answer. And it's not that it doesn't know how to answer. The model is already aware of everything on the internet. So there is nothing that it won't know. It's only us who would not know how to ask properly in order to elicit what we are looking for. And that's the challenge. And prompt for everybody is going to become inevitable. And yeah, so the rest as we move along. So we see here, this is ChatGPT, this is Gemini, this is Perplexity. Let me also open, uh, say, Grok. Now, what Grok does is, now Grok is a model by Elon Musk. And, you know, so the other people have uh, ingested all the knowledge on the internet by scraping the internet. Grok, since also owns X, which is Twitter, so it keeps reading all the tweets. So everything that is being tweeted is already known to Grok at any point in time. So Grok definitely has that kind of edge because it is being fed on a daily basis and it has a pipeline coming directly from Twitter. So Grok is different from that aspect. I was also telling you Perplexity is different because Perplexity does not have a model of its own. So what Perplexity does is it says, all right, I will figure out, depending upon the question that you ask, which model to ask. So behind Perplexity is running n number of models and it decides who to ask because there are plenty of models who are excelling in certain aspects over the others. So, for example, as I said, Grok knows everything about the Twitter, the latest. So, in case you ask something from Perplexity, which it figures out will be best asked from Grok, behind the scene, it will ask Grok. And Gemini is, since it's Google, Google has its own model, so that's not an issue. Uh, ChatGPT also has its own model, and and then there is one last model. Let's not go, otherwise there are so many models. We'll all go confused here itself. The other one, last one, I believe. Let's look at Claude. So Claude is also again same thing. It's another model, but it is known for answering in terms of code. So this is the best coding model, people say. But then what is happening is that new models are coming every day, and one model claims better than the other. And this is an ongoing war. But as of now, we know that, I mean, personally, also, my personal experience, as all of us are going to experience our interactions with these models individually, I also have found this to be very good in terms of coding. There is another thought which says that what is, if you look at a code, I mean, from a typical pure computer science perspective, if you look at a code, it it follows, a set pattern, very similar to law. And there is a huge movement which say that law is nothing but code. So if you really just shift your, reflection a bit, you'll find that here also there are, you know, uh, there is a hierarchy in law, which can be very easily converted into code. And since we already have models which are excelling at coding, uh, for a model to run, or to start looking at things, it can become a very good lawyer from that perspective if we can figure out law. And there are languages which have been developed, which actually are being used in America and other places to convert law into code. And that code is very English type thing. I mean, the way we read law, we will, if we were to read that, the code, you'll find it very easy to read. And if there is anything uh, being missed, because English is a funny language, there can be a lot of, and that is what we play under here. It's all about interpretation. But when you convert law into code, you'll find that the drafting, at the time of drafting, you cannot be redundant. You cannot be having, I mean, of course you can if you wish to, but predominantly law would mean the same thing for everyone. Less chances of being interpreted differently. And so I do not know if I mean, we are not looking at that aspect yet, but it's not very far-fetched because now there are going to be models.
Can I interrupt, sir?
Yes, please.
You know what you are highlighting and what you're stating is extremely interesting. I was just wondering, I
Hmm?
don't know whether you will in the coming hours go through that or not, but I was wondering if you can have a little bit of demo as to how the law I understand the basic that the law is a coding kind of a stuff where there is a hierarchy. Is there a possibility of a demonstration now or any time in the session in the coming 3 hours? Thank you.
Uh, no, no, no. We'll try to handle things right away. So
Because this is
let
very, very extremely interesting because, I'm a chartered accountant, so, CA practice have more or less turned into a sort of a legal practice, whether it is in
correct.
GST or this IP part.
Okay. So can you see this white screen of
Yeah.
mine now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, well, agents, a couple of us professionals getting together and saying, look, we need to leverage it as much as possible. And we've made this thing called Agentic Professionals Network. Essentially, a couple of us getting together and talking about chatbots, talking about agents. There are several resources. We'll go over them later, academics. But to answer your question, if we can go into APNet technologies and if we can look at, so these are languages, so AI languages which
Hmm.
are to do with law. These are not PHP, Python thing.
Got it, sir.
So if we look at, say, yeast script, okay, let me give you an example of yeast script. So there is something known as a yeast script. So if you see here, on the left is your section 7 in a typical format. And on the right is how this section 7 looks in a
Wow.
code format. So let's not go over section 7 here. Let's see what this guy says. He says there is a rule which says initiation of CIRP in which section 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they are with an and, not with an or. So all of them have to be included. Now, if we go into 7.1, it provides that it applies only if default has occurred. Fair enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
And and 7.2 provides that it applies only if the applicant applies in a prescribed form and manner and the applicant applies with the prescribed fee. So
Hmm.
essentially what we are doing is we're just picking this up and we're saying,
Very
look, let's get rid of this English because this is where the problem is. And why
yes.
don't we feed this? And the moment you feed this, the law is a very different thing
Absolutely.
altogether.
So this is something which is proprietary to you and your friends, or this is commonly available on the internet.
It is all being researched. It is available. If you know what to ask, as in, if you know, as it coming back, if you know how to prompt correctly, if you know what to ask. So questions are
Right.
becoming more important than answers.
As you go in the session, I'll try to prompt it and figure out something and try to.
Please keep doing because see, otherwise I would never have touched this unless you would have asked. Since you've asked, I touched this. Otherwise, this was not on my radar to talk about it, and that is the reason why I decided to go against showing a presentation because then what happens is it's a very uh, you'll not be able to expand your the
Yeah, but this is a
the
very, very, this
arguments.
is extremely creative way of looking at the so many sections, and it really makes your life easier.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very good.
So again, without going into too many details, 7.3 applies only if the record of default is evidenced. The default is evidenced from a specific this thing, IRP, other things, and 7.4 and etc. etc. Similarly, this is one example. And what you also see is that this such my dog is so this section is so large and it has really become this. There's no scope for redundancy. There is no scope for ambiguity. And if you do anything wrong, this will immediately, and there is a way. So what happens is that when you put this code into a yeast script, when you put this code, the law into yeast script, uh, there is a way it checks for redundancy, meaning that the moment you convert it into a code, the code is also verified not only by a human, but also by a machine, which says, okay, everything is being covered and everything, etc. So let me give you another example. And then there are plenty of languages. So yeast script is one, then there is Katala, then there is Lexon, then there is Open Frisca. So there is not one. There are many things happening. Giving another example of yeast script only,
Mhm.
this is 29A. So 29A is here, and
Mhm.
over here we are trying to say the same thing, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, with an and. And over here also, it says the same thing. 29A applies only if the applicant is an undischarged insolvent. IBC rule 29AB provides that it has to be a willful defaulter, etc., etc., etc. So, so this is just a taste of things to come. Coming back, coming back, and I would also, so eventually, I'd like all of us to actually become a part of the network also. If we could go here and then we could just join in, etc., then all of us could get up-to-date knowledge, but we'll talk about that later. Coming back, uh, coming back over here. Yeah. So I'd recommend that uh, some of us can take on Gemini, others can take on Perplexity, Grok, or Claude. And let's not get stuck with one model or one technology. Let's see. So if if all of us are okay with doing this collaboratively, then I take the discussion in that direction, or else
Which
I'll
one are
continue
you
with my
taking, sir?
monologue.
Which
What do
one are
you?
you opting for? Which model are you opting for?
It doesn't matter. I'm trying to figure out.
Okay,
I
that's what I say. When you say somebody choose this, I am choosing ChatGPT for whatever
Fair
you're.
enough. Fair enough. So if you're comfortable with ChatGPT, you can open ChatGPT on the side and also open some kind of a document so that you can record your experiences come stemming out of today's webinar. And others, just out of curiosity, should also try Gemini, because Gemini is now proving to be better than GPT
Better than,
as
yes.
per the 3 Pro, etc.
Yeah.
Although we may have to upgrade, but it will give enough time for us to experiment at that level. Perplexity is also, and you never know. There is a reason, because perplexity is unique in the sense that it doesn't go to a database. So all the other models, they have a system, they go to their model. You ask a question, they go to the model. Perplexity doesn't have a model to go to. It has a different methodology called RAG. It goes on the internet first and picks
Hmm.
out the latest. Because see what happens with training these models. So if I were to ask ChatGPT, what was what is your last, say, training date? So it'll tell me, it says that my cutoff is June of 2024. So you can't really have all these models uh, being trained every second. So
Hmm.
ChatGPT comes up with 5 with a cutoff date of June 24, meaning that till June 24, all the information that is collected from the internet has been fed into it. This knowledge it knows internally. Anything outside of June 24, it has to step out and get hold of the latest information from the internet. Same is true with Gemini, and I believe that Gemini should give a later date because it's the latest model. So let's see. Let's ask this guy first. And again, it says June 24. Surprisingly, everybody is talking about June 24. Now, if we were to ask the same question to Perplexity, and it says my knowledge is based on training data available up to early 24 with tools enabling access to real-time information beyond the point of current events facts. No specific cutoff date like October 23 or later is fixed, as Perplexity continuously integrates new data and capability through ongoing development. So this is why it is different, because it says, I don't have a cutoff date. I go on the internet every time you ask a question. So that's why Perplexity may be better in certain cases. So when we go and ask a document to be created or a case law to be found or some research work to be done.
Sir, one question over here.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, as you have shown कि Chat GPT and the other model shown June 2024 as their last training date. So does it mean कि they would not be able to access data on internet after June 2024?
No. So what they do is they do so what okay. So what this guy does is it goes to the model first, and if your question pertains to 2026, it will then go on the internet and try to get hold of the latest information from the net. So there are two things. One is a data which they have been trained on, and the data that is outside of their training. The one which is outside the training, it has no option but to go onto the internet. So over here, sometimes, let me see if I can get rid of this. Yeah.
Does that training mean a lot to give answer to our prompts?
Yeah, of course, in the sense, if it doesn't have the answer, it'll start to hallucinate. It'll start making up an answer. Unless you put some guardrails and says, if you don't know, just tell me you don't know. Don't cook up stories. But the fact is, see, if you see over here, it says search the web. So there are these four buttons over here. So generally, you can ask him to go search the web right away without going to the model. Or by default, it goes to the model. If it can't find the answer, then it automatically internally goes to the web to get the latest answer. It gets a little tricky, but uh, uh, all the models will end up answering eventually. Somebody will catch the ear straight, somebody will go around the head, but answers all of them will give. All we really need to understand is that all these models are not the same. They have different techniques, and that is why we need not get enamored by one model over the other. We literally may have to try other models to see which ones suit our personality. So we have a way of asking questions. It has a way of answering questions. If we can, you know, get two correct people married, it is better. Otherwise, answers everybody will give. So coming back to original my question, okay, and let's say what is Grok say? I've never asked this question.
Grok is similar to Perplexity. It says my knowledge is being continuously updated. I just
Same
checked it.
thing, right? So what this guy says, this is November 28, right? Including current event up to today. Where is it getting all this information from? Because it has a different way of training uh, through Twitter and Rediff and stuff like that, and they keep themselves up to date. And if this be the case, then we should all be using Grok because it's up to date. So we don't know the answers. And even I don't have all the answers. But if we can ask the right question, that's good enough. Finally, if we ask the same thing to Claude, and let's say what it says, January 25. That's my cutoff. However, I can search the web. So here is the answer. However, I can search the web for information about the events or developments that have occurred after January today till Friday, November 28th. So if you have questions about anything that happened in the month since my training cutoff date, I'll be happy to search for current information. I really like the way Claude answered this question of mine. So to begin with, my inclination is towards Claude because I like the way it answers. And so that is why I say that we all must check out different models before figuring out which one is best. And eventually, our best case is to have a model of our own, which we have trained, which is completely under our control in terms of training, and um, something which we can be sure of that all our knowledge is not going abroad, and we are not violating any law to begin with. Because very soon there's going to be a time when we'll be asked to ensure that none of our internal, I mean, it is true even today, that none of our in confidential data be step out. So if you have ever asked OpenAI a question which had your internal data, it is in its database. It's only that how do we ask that question in order to retrieve that answer? It can become very dangerous if there is somebody who's really expert at prompting, because think of any of these models as a huge library with millions of books, and you just need to figure out a particular paragraph. So if you know exactly which shelf, which book, what number, what page, etc., to go to, you will find the paragraph. The only question is, do you have all that information? Meaning, do you have that correct prompt? So, for those who are comfortable, they can open this thing on the side and work with me. For others who prefer to, step back and listen, are most welcome to do so. So coming,
I just like to say that since the Perplexity has no their own any model, so
yeah,
do Perplexity have any cutoff day of their training? Or because I found that Perplexity is good for web browsing, okay? Because
yeah,
I found that Perplexity is based for doing web browsing, and you need to find anything on Google or any other browser.
yeah.
So any cutoff date for the Perplexity is there, or they just going through all the other AI models and get the answer?
Hmm. Perplexity will never have a cutoff date because it has
Okay.
no model and it need not train anything. Its entire job is, so what Perplexity has done is different. उसने मॉडल को ट्रेन नहीं किया, उसने इंटरनेट को स्क्रैप करके अपने पास एक एक रैग एप्लीकेशन में, एक एक डेटाबेस में उसकी इंडेक्सिंग करके रख ली। जब भी आप सवाल पूछते हो तो उसको अंदाजा रहता है कि इंटरनेट पे कहाँ जाके उसको ढूंढना है। वो इंडेक्स में जाके पहले एक बार देख लेता है, फिर वो इंटरनेट पे जाके इट गेट्स द लेटेस्ट इंफॉर्मेशन, and
Mm-hmm.
then it sort of converts it into a natural language and gives you the answer.
Okay.
So, and it asks the other model to do the natural language processing for it. वो डेटा वो भेजता है, इंडेक्स में जाके
Mm.
देखता है, इंटरनेट पे जाता है, वहां से डेटा को एक दोबारा से लेटेस्ट को स्क्रैप करता है। जो उसके पास लेटेस्ट डेटा आता है वो फिर वो किसी भी, डिपेंडिंग अपॉन वो किसको देना चाहता है, वो उनका अपनी रीजनिंग है, कोई स्कोरिंग मॉडल है, और वो इन्हीं 4 5 10 मॉडल्स में से उनको दे के बोलता है कि इसको अब आप नेचुरल लैंग्वेज में कन्वर्ट करके दो। दैट्स हाउ
Mm.
परप्लेक्सिटी वर्क्स। सो सो okay, I repeat, those who are comfortable can open these things on the side. They also open a Word document, which I'm going to do for myself on the side. And uh, we'll 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 ask a question, get an answer, and go through this process of experimenting collaboratively. But before that, let's go back to prompt. So if we were to, okay, let me go here. If we were to go, so okay, let me give you a quick rundown on what this website is. So there is a chatbot, which we will be talking about, and then there is a data set. So this chatbot is being sort of, everyone, including all of us, eventually will have our own chatbots, and we will like each our chatbot to be trained our way. And therefore, similarly, we are in the process of training our chatbot using our data set. And so if we were to go inside, any of these data set, and I know that, you literally we have, for example, this Section 3 formation of company. And therefore, when I ask exactly this question to my chatbot, so give me details of this, you can provide details, for example, X. So since we have handled, let's see what the answer is. So where is this answering this question from? The references are coming from our data set. So I know exactly what I have done, and I don't have to remember any of this. All I have to know is ask the right question and I will get the correct reference. Now, this reference is coming from my set. And if I were to ask the same question, for example, to, to any of these models, they will not know. Or let's see what they do. Now, obviously, they don't have this information in this format. It will still be able to. So, so it's searching on the web, and it's even if there is this underscore thing, it's figured out what we are talking about. It says section 3, and it is giving 7 or more percent, 2 or more percent, and then it goes into a very general thing. What kind of company structures are there? What are the special provision? And it will give you all the general answers that you'd want. But this is exactly what we don't want. We don't want this kind of generic question. We already know this. We need very specific things. Uh, you know, again coming from what we want, including uh, including Action Ispat Power Limited being the case law here. And not only so, I asked a chatbot. So one is a data set. So as I gave you an example, so we need to literally, first of all, let's go back to data set. Data set can be a PDF. So you just pick up a PDF of company law and you just throw it at ChatGPT and says, give me an answer. Now it's a huge document. It needs a huge context window. It's such a generic thing. So if you train a model, or all these models that we are talking about are trained like that, they just go around scraping the whole universe and they keep ingesting, hoping that their next word prediction is going to be accurate, which it tends to be. But if, or this is what we feel, that if we were to train our data set specifically, at this granular level, this level of granularity, to the extent that even the data inside this is also not plain text. It is in a markdown format with some metadata, etc. All so that a model could answer, exactly as per our requirement. So we've got an idea of what a data set is, and you'll hear a lot about these data sets in so many different uh, um, so many variations. And when we come and ask the same question to a chatbot, you'll see that it is not as simple as that. There are a lot of parameters that you can ask. So this is where the prompt engineering is now coming in. And this is really the engineering part, nothing to be afraid of. There is a query mode which can vary from naive to local to global to hybrid to mixed to bypass. So bypass means that there is no technology, just goes ask the model straight away. So if I were to go bypass and ask this question directly over here again, meaning bypassing other details, it should answer more or less on these lines. So if you see, it's answering these questions on the lines of this, which is a very generic answer. Whereas, and it says that I've figured this out from Companies Act and some MCA rules, but the answer is very generic in nature. Answer is correct, but if this is what we want, then that's one. But if we want anything else, then what do we want and how do we get it? So I can ask the same questions, to Gemini, for example. Let's see what happens. I'm also doing all this thing for the first time because we just
So when you
randomly,
say the model has to be trained, insofar as the in-house models are concerned,
yeah,
is the training manual, or that's also automated?
no. Well, the the training per se is automated. What we have to do is we have to give the data sets in a particular format. That is manual.
Okay.
Although There also we use some kind of technology, but again, there is a human who's sitting and sorting all these things out. And
So it means to say all that depends is again that giga part of it, Google, garbage in, garbage. Whatever you're feeding in, the report will be coming out exactly as the way the data is being fed. Generic to generic, specific to specific. Am I right in my assessment?
there you go. Correct. Absolutely. But then the challenge here is how do you become expert at being specific without having to learn another new
Absolutely right.
a new we don't have to get another degree of sorts.
Absolutely.
Uh, so if again I ask this question to Gemini, let's see what it did. It says formation of company. It gave a company type, limited by shares,
No, it will be generic,
OPC,
sir. It will give all kind of
standard, right? And it obviously gave this table in a very nice way. There is a DIN number, there is a digital signature, memorandum association, and modern incorporation process. So this is a new process that India is opening through the MCA portal called SPIC, Simplified Platform for Incorporating Company Electronically Plus, etc., etc. So where did it, so if you see this, it got this information, absolutely cutting edge information from MCA side, and it says this is where I'm getting it from, MCA portal. And it also says कि मैंने video भी it's giving, because it's Google, therefore it can traverse its YouTube, right? And otherwise the search that Google has had expertise in for such a long time. Therefore, its answer is maybe slightly better, even if it's generic in its nature, it's better than ChatGPT. So that's what I say, that when you explore, and this is a very vague question I'm asking. It makes no sense to a general thing. It says MCA Chapter 2 in Corporation Section S3, Formation of Company, provide details. I can't get any vaguer than this. So let's ask this guy this question. Huh? You have exhausted already. So if you see, this guy is going on the internet more than anything else. So if you see over here, it says, all right, it's figured this out. Then it says, oh, it's referring to chapter 2. Then it says, oh, let me go to the manual, some V3 manual or some PDF. And then it also went to all these internet. So its first go to is the internet. The other models didn't first go to the internet. They went into the model. And then looking at the answer, it still says overview, key requirements, incorporation process, and it stops here and says, that's it. If you want more question, you ask more question. So we have some kind of idea as to what's happening behind the scenes. Now, what do we do? We are here today to figure out how to best ask a question, not in this form. If not in this general form, then in which form should we ask? For which, let me go back to here. So this was about chatbots, just an idea. This is about the agents. There are different agents, and agents is a different thing altogether. I took a session on agents, but it's such a moving target that one literally needs to be up to date. And I guess I'll try and hold one more shortly. There are some agents that are being built, some are being done. So all this brainstorming continues to happen. In terms of resources, there are tools, forms, formats, but let's go to the prompts. So let's see what a prompt is. So prompt is asking a clear question in a controlled fashion. So there are control parameters to a question, which if we ask, then we'll get better answers. Generally in talking prompting, you must communicate what matters, you must structure your prompt, you must give specific examples if possible, you need to add constraints, and you need to break complex tasks. And so if you look at it, it's literally quite a bit saying this is This is what a prompt should be like. An example of which is, uh, yeah, okay, we'll instead of going over here, let me open this. So there is this prompt engineering cheat sheet. It's all available on the net. It says, and then there are so many acronyms you will see. This particular acronym says AUTOMAT, Automat Framework. And what it says is that you must first give a persona to the bot. So whosoever you ask, you first tell him who is he, because a model can wear any hat. You ask him to become a doctor, he'll say, I'm a doctor. You say, be a lawyer, he says, I'm a lawyer. It can be anything that it wants to be. But you have to tell him what you are expecting him to be. So you literally say that you are an insolvency professional with expertise in IBC law 2016, India. Now it knows who he is. And you start giving him that's the first context you have to give as to who you want the bot to be. So over here, we say act as a bot, and a bot has a persona, and we tell him that you are a psychotherapist, patient, professional, journalist, math tutor, whatever you want him to be. Having told the bot to be who we want him to be, then we tell him that his answer is meant for which audience. So if we can tell him that you are an insolvency professional who is trying to answer to a financial creditor. So it knows that who he is and who the person on the other side is. Now you will begin to control his answers. So you need a persona for the audience. Then what do you want him to do? You want him to summarize the document, you want to make a list of something, you want to translate, classify. Any of these verbs are to be told as to what we are expecting him to do. Then what kind of output do you want? I mean, over here, if you see, uh, over here, if I were to go to this chatbot here, this is a query mode, which is one. What is the response format? So do you want a multi-paragraph? You want a single paragraph? You want bullet points? What kind of answer do you want? What kind of response do you want to give? So if you don't know what to do, it'll give you whatever it feels like. But if you really want to control, then you have to explain to him what kind of output do you want given. List of steps, show me a formula, make a table, give me a bullet point, those kind of things. Then you have to, what kind of a tone or a style? Now, you want him to be empathetic, confident. I mean, although none of this may be relevant to us, but I mean, we don't have to tell him to be a confident insolvency professional and answer confidently or aggressively. But just to give you an idea that this is also maybe added to your prompt. Now, there are certain edge cases where you say, if you don't have an answer, right, that's an edge case. Then you tell me that you don't know. Or if you're not, if although I have asked that the answer is meant for a financial creditor, but my question ends up relating to a home buyer or a operational creditor, then how do you handle those edge case? You can also explain those. Now, this is going to see the first 3 or 4 are enough. The others come into play if you really want to go that far. In terms of tone, in terms of atypical cases. So for example, if the answer on the question is not in the provided context, tell the user you can't answer the question based on your material. Or if the mail is neither an offer, not a confirmation or a receipt, then set the category to null, etc. I mean, these are advanced techniques. We could probably discuss them once we have gone past the beginners. And then there is finally whitelisting. So whitelisting is So there are two ways. We can say, give me an answer, but don't give me these answer. Or we can say, give me these suggested answers. So you're whitelisting some conversation. When we'll go through the examples, you'll get to understand this better. But when building a conversational system, you may not want the model to talk about anything and everything because it may hallucinate. So you tell him that this is the area that I want you to answer. So you're whitelisting certain aspects. And you can generally also talk about blacklisting, but blacklisting can be everything else. So, and then there are other acronyms, different approaches, different people are still experimenting with what works, what doesn't work. As I said, that all this is a moving target. Uh, but if we see this work for us, then this is what we should go around. So if we were now to go back to prompts, and let's go back to some basics. So what is the benefit? You get improved model performance, it reduces bias, it increased controls and predictability, enhances user experience. Again, very generic. Yes, we expect that. In terms of prompt engineering, a prompt has a format. We gives it a context and some examples preferably. So sometimes you hear zero shot, one shot, multiple shots. A shot is nothing. It's an example. So you give in one example, you call it one shot. And for those models who are trained specifically on that particular data, you don't need to give them example because it is full of examples. So you literally just have to ask, it'll answer. But to a generic AI, it's best to not only give a context, who he is, who the user is, who the answer to is for, and some example. Fine-tuning, adapting, multi-turn conversations. Okay. So if you look at prompt strategies, then naturally the clearer the goal and objectives are, the better. If you ask a general question, you get a general answer. You have to use action verbs which are specific, and all that we are using nowadays is summarize this or give me details, just like I said, give me detail. But we have to go beyond summarize and generally saying, give me a case law, do a research, summarize. But example is write a bullet list that summarizes the key finding, or compose a 500-word essay discussing the impact of climate change on coastal communities. So it's not only climate change on the coastal communities with a 500-word limit.
Sir, can I
So
ask you one question over here?
yes, ma'am.
Sir, means this confidentiality and other issues are really very critical because all our data will go to this through this AI to the person who have built this, and like how they will use it, which they that thing we can't even imagine at this point of time. But like without sharing our details, can we use this AI for our routine clerical task to save the timings, like checking the mails or replying to such mails, because that is quite tedious exercise in whole this CIRP or other IBC matters, and some other way like how practically we can use this AI without affecting the confidentiality and other things. Are there any possibilities to just use this AI for our clerical kind of task?
Yeah. So there is this hierarchy of things going to come. Right now, what we are using are American or Chinese models, or rather American only. Chinese are also not really there. I mean, we are not using them. But there is a huge push in India for Indian models. And Indian models will be hosted on Indian servers. Now, those models will eventually get trained, And there may still be a confidentiality issue, even if, because those models are not ours, they are still outside. Yet it's better than using American models because we can, as of now, we have no option but to use American models. Shortly, we will be using Indian models. And going further, the hardware is going to become cheap enough, or the models are eventually going to become proficient enough to be able to run on your own laptop. I mean, you can still do it, but it's very slow. You have to use very small models, which are not as effective. So, but with as these models become easier, smaller models. So this LLM is large language model. The SLM is small language model. Now we can run these edge models, the small models on our laptops and we know that there is no training mechanism in the model. So the model is getting a question, giving an answer. It doesn't know what else to do. It's forgotten everything. You've forgotten the question, it's forgotten the answer. There is no reinforcement learning going on behind the scenes, which is true when we converse with the American models, because they have the whole reason why they are ready to lose millions of dollars is in order to get hold of every full stop and comma that you say. Well, we have no option as of now, therefore we are stuck. But the best case scenario, if you could run the model on your machine, just like you run Microsoft Word, no one knows what you're writing, and you can delete everything and you can uninstall the machine and you can format the hard disk and everything is gone. And so from your own laptop to a controlled Indian environment to an uncontrolled American environment, these are the three options with us. We are stuck with option one. Option two is close by, and option three is also happening. So, this is exactly what we are also trying to do is eventually there has to be a mechanism where we run our processes, our workflows, our assignments um, more scientifically, as in using softwares which are targeted for our type of work, which are connected with local models running on your machine. In the meantime, if we come up, so for example, if I come up with a model and I put it on an Indian server, then I do not know if eventually India or under Indian law or under IBBI or a regulator just might have some kind of a regulation over me, meaning our kind of people, the ones who claim that they have their models, and some kind of underwriting that we are not collecting anything, we are not training our models, your information, even if you ask. But if there is something really specific, meaning that from the date of opening, filing Form A for a particular assignment, it knows exactly who the cooperator is. It has access to all the claims. It has access to all the information. You wouldn't even want to um, interact with an Indian model because that will definitely be. So the answer to your question is yes, it is possible even today, provided you have a good laptop. Uh, so there are a lot of edge computers, small boxes you will see. Even Nvidia has one. Google is coming out with one. Those are small boxes, some 3,000 odd dollars. If you can afford to buy one, keen to buy one, then for 3-4 lakh rupees worth of a system, you can have a decent system in house even today. So to again coming back, interact with these models, you have to remain vague and generic. When we come to Indian models, if there are laws which can control all these vendors, the model vendors, you can be assured that your data is confidential, or else the vendor is going to be in trouble and not you. And finally, you could be running it on your machine. Okay,
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thanks for
thank you.
explaining.
So if you see, it says goals and objectives. It says write a product description for a new line of organic skincare. I mean, you see, it's not it's being very specific. It's like you are asking your servant to go to the market and buy something. You better tell him कि भाई यहाँ से इतने रुपए की चीज मिलेगी, ये लाना, ये मत लाना, अगर ये मिले तो ऐसे करना, नहीं हो तो आ जाना घर वापस. All those kind of things is the same thing. It's like a servant, but it's assume that he's a dumb servant and you have to explain to him everything every time. Then we talk about provide context and background information. Naturally, give the global temperature, given that the global temperature have risen by 1 degree since the pre-industrial era, discuss the potential consequence to sea level rise. So it's again, you give a context, you give a background, it should know what to answer because it can answer anything. And if it gets a vague hint, because okay, there are some models which are specifically says, please do not give us an example. So perplexity says मेरे को example मत देना क्योंकि मैंने इंटरनेट पे जाना है और वहां से ढूंढ के लाना है तो मैं एग्जाम्पल को instead of taking example as an example, I'll start searching about the example. So that is why to know the model that you are interacting with is very important as to who is answering and where is it coming from. And what we are talking about here is general in nature. What how kind of strategies? These are generic things. We'll come to specifics. Then few short prompting, meaning we give a few examples. So input cat, output a small furry animal with whiskers, input dog, output, I don't know what this is. Example, humorous. So some of our guys are copy pasting things from here and there for other training sessions maybe. So politicians' speech was so dull it could cure insomnia. Okay, forget about all this example part. We will give a specific example of ours later. Again, be specific. And then you iterate. If it's not able to answer, if it's given you some answer, generally you will see it asks another set of questions below. Do you want these questions to be asked? It is trying to iterate for you. So sometimes when we ask a question, so maybe we have asked a question over here. Okay, this guy is not given. Okay. Yeah. So he says related. So he says you asked this question, but were you talking of these? Explain key requirements, how many promoters are required. It's trying to read your mind into what the next iteration of your question could be. And here again, we are trying to say, iterate and keep experimenting, rephrase your prompt using synonyms or add, remove information, rewrite this answer, excluding XYZ, short, long prompts, etc. So point being, you experiment and you have different strategies. And this is something that we'll all have to sort of experiment and learn with. In terms of prompt types, as I said, there are zero shot, meaning no example. You just give, and we'd love to, if something like this could happen, just give a vague question. It still knows what you're asking because it is only specifically trained for that domain. One shot, chain of thought. We're not going into details of these because these are more technical concepts. In terms of creative writing, we say craft a prompt that specify the genre, tone, style, etc. For example, write a short story about a young woman who discovers a magical portal in her attic. So there's, you can immediately even start to visualize what you're talking about, and so does the model. Summarize the main points, translate the following text in terms of question answering, explain, etc., code generation. We're not going here. Now, in terms of, okay, we will discuss this later. So coming back, we saw what the automat, for example, coming back here, we saw what We saw what all this is. Now, AUTOMAT, what does it mean for IBC? So for example, when we talk of a bot persona, meaning what you asking the bot to be, we can ask the bot to be the following. We can say, act as a seasoned resolution professional managing a complex CIRP. So now you told him who he is. Act as a liquidator overseeing asset sales under IBC. So it knows who he, yeah. Act as an RP who's drafting a COC meeting, so if you want a COC meeting minutes to be drafted, you literally have to first tell him, this is, please try to be this guy. Rather than not asking him, you simply say, draft COC meetings for me. Now, COC could mean n number of things under n number of things, and it knows all the COCs, meaning other than committee or creditors, it thinks of COC as code of conduct. It COCs see as, there are 100 acronyms which relate to COC, and it could have those COCs could be having meetings. But if you don't tell him that he's an IP, RP, it will not know. It will say, अच्छा COC की मीटिंग तो वहां पे भी होती है, वो बना देगा कोई ना कोई कहानी. Then we will say कि तो कहानियां सुनाता है. तो कहानी तो वो सुना है because you're not asking him correctly. So act as an IRP onboarding claims and reconciling financial statement. Act as a act as a forensic minded IP for legal and so what we've done is we've created these personas. Legal के लिए ये persona बना दिए, set of persona, valuation financials के personas बने हुए हैं, operational managers के हैं, stakeholders, etc. And you can ask, we literally have to choose which persona we want him to be. And there can be so many. So you'll have to experiment with this automat framework as we are going to go through, and you're going to run it across these models to see which one model works best for you. And that's the challenge. So after telling the model what it needs to be, we need to tell him who the answer is for. So the audience persona could be a creditor side audience, which says you are writing or making a loan proposal for a senior banker from PSB valuation recovery prospects, and do the following. Make sure you give the output in whatever bullet or multi-para form, and do not give you have to whitelist telling him what to do, what not to do. But if you see, you could be asking him, this is just an example of various persona for the audience, meaning the answers, who the answer is for, although the answer is all for you, but you must tell him, you know what I'm saying. So to the bot persona, you can say for example, let's take this case only. You are an RP who's drafting COC meetings for a home buyer with no financial expertise, for example. Then you see how he answers, and we'll try and cook up some, permutation combination of these. Now, what are the target actions? And these are all IBC related actions, right? There can be so many, but summarize admitted or rejected claims in case you give him some kind of a claim, PDFs or something, or maybe you give some Excel sheet and you ask him to summarize. Extract claim amounts from PDFs, etc. Classify claims into to financial, operational. So these are claim related verbs or actions. And for COC, we can say COC key meetings draft karni hai, compare multiple resolution plans for the COC, right? Score resolution plans using evaluation matrices. And again, this is just skimming. You'll have to then give him attachments, which it can get this facts from. This is just the prompting part. After the prompting, there is context. Context meaning what do you give him as attachments? for him to go through. Without the facts, it will not know what to do. It will again start cooking stories. But if you give him facts, it will say, "हाँ, ये fact ऐसा है." Again, for compliance regulatory actions, then we have valuation and financial analysis action, analyze valuation report for values, break down financial ratios. These are typical things we even do today, but we don't do it in a formal automat sort of framework. We do it, एक दो चीजें डल जाती हैं, बाकी आधी रह जाती हैं. Forensic action, liquidation process action, etc. Again, you can go through all these. And high impact IBC target verbs are summarize, extract, classify, compare, validate, organize, draft, outline, interpret, analyze, etc., etc., etc. You can go through all these. So the bot persona, the audience persona, and the target actions. Now, how do we want the outputs as? So section-wise summary, step-wise process flow, bullet point, clause-wise explanation, chronological timeline. What kind of, how do you want to see the output? Is it a table or is it this? So as you see, there are tables or grids. You need a formal legal outputs um, in terms of ratios, etc. And these are all technical data formats. If your system wants to talk to another system, if you want to feed this output into another output, this is more to do with agents, where there are multiple agents doing a task and one agent is fed with the output of the previous agent. And we don't want English to go around. We want JSON or CSV or YAML formats. For drafting and documentation, we need a well-structured information memorandum, checklist recipe. You can make all these of your own. I mean, again, these are just what we have figured out. But so you see, all these are the output types. Now, in terms of tonality, what kind of tone, again, which may not be relevant to us because all our tones have to be formal, more or less. But you can have legal judicial tone. You can talk in terms of professional procedural tones or financial analytical tones. I mean, we don't understand it, but to an LLM, it can differentiate between these tones. These humans may not be able to figure out other than, do char tones. He's being friendly, he's being inimical, etc. But here, it is so nuanced that it can actually use certain words given these specific tones. So for a forensic and investigation tones, it's an evidence-driven investigative tone, a red flag reporting tone, transaction tracing tone. So it all depends how deep do we want to go down the rabbit hole. But it can go pretty deep. And atypical cases, the cases that we don't want, we want X. Okay, there it is. So atypical cases, if there is incomplete claim data. If the creditor claim has no supporting invoice, mark the status as insufficient documentation. So you have to tell him that I'm asking you to do something, but if you're unable to do something, then do what? Then mark it as something, or raise a flag called value not provided. Or if it can't be classified, just put it under unclassified category. So these are outliers. Security not verified. If there's conflict in record, then you can say there's a mismatch. And if you don't tell him to say this thing specifically, it may not say it at all, or it may say it in its own vague words. But if you have told him to say it, will use exactly these words and you know what to look for. So if you say, अगर conflict हो data में, तो ये लिखना mismatch needs IRP review. और अगर वो ये चीज लिखता है तो फिर आप अगले एजेंट को कह सकते हो कि अगर उसके कमेंट में या उसके उसमें किसी पैरामीटर में मिसमैच नीड आरपी रिव्यू है तो ये करना. तो देन this is now getting into agents where agents gets tuned with each other basis the outcomes of the other agents. So therefore we need all these things becomes very critical, especially when you're not in a conversational mode with an artificial intelligence, but you're asking him to do something for you and you want it done correctly. So those are example of agents we will talk another time. But and then there are the edge cases. Regulatory, if the resolution plan violates 32, immediately mark it as non-compliant, incorrect legal citation. Basically, you're telling him what to do if something goes wrong. And only you know that I'm asking this question and these are the possibilities of things going wrong. And therefore, if this happens, do that. It's again, if then else. That's why I say that prompting is literally an easier form of of programming. Use programming in English. So this is if then else only. This is if then else. अगर आप इसको mathematically लोगे तो वो again there are plenty of these missing supporting document, unverifiable claim, non-compliant plan, data mismatch, regulatory time breach, etc., etc., etc. And then topic whitelisting finally, where you say what is AI allowed to talk about. मतलब तू मेरे को इसी चीज का है, बस इसी चीज के दायरे में जवाब देना. Focus on compliance and safety. So for example, only discuss topics relate to IBC. So it knows कि मैंने और कुछ किताब खोलनी नहीं है, तो IBC की बात करनी है. Or respond to queries about CIRP, meaning liquidation I don't have to worry about. So you have to whitelist if you want more specific answers. Only generate COC meeting minutes, form, draft, public announcement, meaning don't do anything else. So once you whitelist, and this becomes the ultimate framework for IBC. So let's see some examples, meaning examples where we have used all this. So again, we try to put it under different headings. So client communication. So if you see over here, it's AUTOMAT. So act as a professional for a company director with no legal background and who is not familiar with insolvency. Explain CIRP in simple non-technical language. Output a 200-word plain English referring to what CIRP means, what happens step by step, what directors should expect, what their roles, how their roles change. Make the tone assuring, simple, transparent. Where atypical cases, the user provides partial company details, ignore them, give a general CIRP explainer. Or if the user requests for legal advice, give a general this thing. No, don't give him a legal advice, give him a general answer. And only discuss IBC process and CRP workflow, meaning no CILP. So if we were to pick this up, and if we were to go here to ChatGPT, and we say, look, here is a general thing, make a complete prompt. Give me a complete prompt. Okay, full is equally good. Oops. Hold on. Okay. I'll log in. So here is a plain English explanation of. No, ये तो उसने आंसर देना शुरू कर दिया. I'm not asking him to answer. I'm saying. So see, I didn't ask the right question. I gave a very vague this thing. What did I say? So you see, it did not realize that I was asking him to make a prompt. although I've given him a prompt, but I'm asking him to make a prompt. It started answering questions. It started answering based on this particular prompt, and it started giving. So this is exactly what we have to be careful about before we blame them or blame this thing. Here is a prompt as per automat. Framework. Rephrase the prompt and give me another detailed prompt to ask, say, Claude. So I'm asking him Claude AI के लिए मेरे को prompt बना के दे. अब ये पता नहीं किसके लिए prompt है, तो जनरल सा prompt है, मैं तो Claude AI के लिए अब पूछ रहा हूँ. Let's see what it does now. So here is a rephrased prompt for you in the same automat site that would feed into another AI like Claude to get a plain English CRP explainer. So essentially it has rephrased. So you see ये ना Claude, अब मैंने चैट जीपीटी को Claude के बारे में पूछा है, तो उसने कोई बहुत ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं किया, पर उसने दोबारा से वही बना दिया, एक्ट एज अ सीनियर ऑडियंस टारगेट एक्शन CRP मीन्स वाओ, नो चेंज. That's strange. So what I do is, let's take this to Claude, for example. And I ask him the same question. I'll help you rephrase this prompt in two ways. First, refined version, then in one optimized for ChatGPT o1. So there is a universal which says what is the role, what is the audience, what is the task, how to go about it. So this is a generic prompt, and this is what a prompt really should be. Now, if we were to begin to write these kind of fancy prompts, it's going to take us half a day to even figure out what a prompt should be. Forget about the answer. However, we'll have to also learn to leverage an AI to convert a prompt into a better prompt. And then say, now that you've understood what the prompt is, now give me an answer. Now, if you see, this is a universal way of prompting. It says role, audience. Okay, it says role, audience, task, and what are the guidelines? Or what are the boundaries? What am I doing? What are the boundaries? क्या देना है, क्या नहीं देना? चैट जीपीटी के लिए ऑप्टिमाइज करने के लिए उसने बोला सिस्टम इंस्ट्रक्शन. अब चैट जीपीटी इस तरह का प्रॉम्प्ट ढूंढ रहा है, सिस्टम इंस्ट्रक्शन बताओ, कॉन्टेक्स्ट बताओ, ऑब्जेक्टिव बताओ, और लेंथ वेंथ लैंग्वेज वैंग्वेज कौन से कंस्ट्रेंट्स हैं बताओ, क्वालिटी चेक बताओ. So now if I were to pick this up, now Claude did give a better answer. Claude ने ये बोला है कि अगर आपने चैट जीपीटी को पूछना है तो इस ढंग से पूछो, लेकिन चैट जीपीटी ने क्लॉड के लिए जवाब नहीं दिया. तो now these are internal things, like companies are trying to fight with each other. If you ask चैट जीपीटी के मेरे को क्लॉड के बारे में बता, तो बोलेगा मेरे को आता ही, मेरे को नहीं पता जी वो क्या करता है. Typical human mentality. But if I were to ask this question, and mind you, it gave us this answer. It gave this answer. what is CIRP, what happens step by step, what directors should expect, what director role becomes. Your role becomes a cooperation, providing books record. You may assist the IRP in a day-to-day activity. You should avoid unilateral action. You should prepare handover, control transparently, right? And it might revive the company and lead into liquidation otherwise, etc. So the answer is correct. Now, if I were to ask ChatGPT in this format, meaning Claude से prompt को बनवाया specifically इसके लिए और इसको बोला, just might ask me to log in again. Anyway, अब इसको क्वेश्चन पूछा, see, this is so funny. अरे ये थोड़ी ना पूछा, तेरे को तो क्वेश्चन पूछा था. I will log in. Come on. System and structure. Adopt the persona. That's the context. That's the objective, etc., etc. Now, what happens? Now it's answering correctly. So this answer is very different from the earlier answer because we had all these controlled parameters. So now the tone is assuring straightforward human. Of course, we don't get it because, we'll have to become sensitive enough for that. 8th grade reading level, 200 words, CRP workflow initiation. Exclusions, do not reference specific company case laws, statutory provisions. Otherwise, it would have done that. You told him not to do it, therefore it didn't do it. If the user access quality check, every sentence should be understandable to somebody with no business or legal background. If use unfamiliar term like moratorium, define it in the sentence. Prioritize clarity over completeness, etc. Now we don't, these things are very nuanced, but very critical to get this kind of a response, which is very important for a director who has no idea what's happening. So, as I said, we can keep experimenting. This is an endless rabbit hole. And what we've just done is skimmed the surface with just one or two, although experiment needs to be done across so many. And so there are prompts for legal, like for example, this is IBC, we are trying to make some prompts for law, etc. So any questions so far? Otherwise, I'll keep going on and on.
Hello.
हाँ जी, बोलिए.
Can you give any guidance, legal drafting as such, for the prompts that you are just showcasing, sir? Any, sir, live demo, sir? How can we make any drafting, or how could we do any IBC work using these prompts?
सर इंग्लिश समझ नहीं आई, थोड़ी हिंदी में बताएं दोबारा से.
सर, क्या ये ऐसे जो prompts बता रहे हैं, इनको यूज करके can you get some live demo, sir?
Real value from using these prompts?
Yes, sir. For IBC, some legal drafting, how this could be some live scenario would be helpful to us, sir.
आपकी आवाज कट रही है. मेरे को जो समझ में आई है, आप पूछ रहे हैं कि How will we use this in our real life IBC situations is what I have explained. You can literally come here. I will share this website and it's free for all of us because we are all professionals. It's our network. We actually have to build the network and this is an moving target. So you can copy paste and do experiment with what I have tried to show you over here and then get answers. And these are typical general question answers. आपने सवाल पूछा उसको अच्छे ने जवाब दिया, आपने अच्छे से सवाल पूछा उसने अच्छे से जवाब दिया. लेकिन अगर आप कह रहे हैं कि ड्राफ्टिंग के, आई हर्ड द वर्ड ड्राफ्टिंग. सो ड्राफ्टिंग इज अ डिफरेंट, it's a different ball game. Of course you can ask it to draft and it will give you something, but it's that's something we don't want. We want something very specific, for which we are also experimenting with something like this called formats. So these are general formats, we all have them. So for an agreement, is this the question that I'm answering? कहीं I hope I don't keep go on a different tangent. आप पूछ क्या दोबारा से दोबारा पूछिए शायद. Otherwise I'll answer this question. Anyway, I'll answer this anyway. So there are 100 all these type of agreements. So we click on say one of the agreement and we get hold of this format. अगर आप उसको ये फॉर्मेट देते हो और उसको सही से पूछते हो कि मैंने फॉर्मेट जो तेरे को अटैच किया है मेरे को इस फॉर्मेट में जवाब चाहिए, फिर वो आपको इस फॉर्मेट में जवाब देगा. सो ड्राफ्टिंग is best if we can give, is called one shot example where we are actually giving an attachment of sorts. अब हम उसको किसी भी अटैचमेंट आप जो पड़ी हैं हम दे सकते हैं, उसको बोलें इसको मद्देनजर रखते हुए ऐसा बना के दे. सो दिस इज अ ड्राफ्टिंग थिंग. I hope I've answered your question. So these are prompts. Now there are drafting type prompts and the question answer prompts. Question answer prompts we have covered. Drafting prompts I do not intend to cover today because I thought we'll go through a question answer or some demo session where I'd see you guys do something. But बाकी आने वाले समय में अगर हमको दो तरह से ये करना ही पड़ेगा. एक, अगर आपको असाइनमेंट चाहिए, यू हैव टू गो टू द बैंक्स एंड से लुक, वी आर ऑल AI enabled now. We have all the agents and we have chatbots and we know what we are doing. And here is the proof. That's point number one. Point number two is that you'll have to figure out how to leverage it within your workflow in order to avoid getting into trouble with IBBI. बिकॉज वो आप जो यहाँ से भेज रहे हो डेटा वो सारा वहाँ पे समराइज होना शुरू हो जाएगा और वहाँ पे पूछेंगे जी बताना है कौन, who is the person violating what, and the chatbot will say the following person seems to be doing this following thing happening, red flagging वहाँ हो जाएगी. And when they will come asking, then we also have the same technology or same weapon to answer their questions. It can't be manual on our side and agentic on theirs. We'll not be able to counter that. Any other question? So let me at this stage invite you to take a look at this. I will just put it on the chat group and you can say look at it and you can actually play with this chat bot here because it's specifically developed for us. And it's, although it has OpenAI running in the background, but only in the background. It doesn't go to the model directly for answers. It goes through a process just like Perplexity does. So this is like another layer of technology above OpenAI. So how do we open this? Hold on. Okay, do that.
सर ये जो
Go.
स्क्रीन दिखती है आपकी जो आपने खोल रखी है,
हाँ जी.
अरे तेरे को नहीं, ये जो स्क्रीन दिखती है आपने जो खोल रखी है, ये जो apnet.co.in है, इस पे
हम्म।
रजिस्टर करने के बाद दिखती है? क्योंकि मैंने
नहीं, ओपन है।
है
ओपन है। आप जाए इसके ऊपर।
I went in there because you know what happened is when I opened that apnet.co.in retrieval insolvency chatbot, it says start a retrieval by typing your query
हाँ
below.
हाँ हाँ, so there is no form, there is no this thing, you can start asking questions directly. So what happens is, there is a little thing typically if you go to a website, it simply says हम क्या करते हैं, आप क्या
हाँ,
करते हैं,
ये
इसमें
वाली
कुछ नहीं हो,
स्क्रीन है।
सीधा पूछ रहा है, सवाल पूछो जी आप क्या चाहते हो. So it's everything is open for you up front. There is no, there's no welcome screen or something. You type you type your query. And you can share your experience. आप क्या पूछा, उसने क्या जवाब दिया. Let's see you do it for the benefit of others, all of us.
Let me just ask something which I faced in the liquidation. Let me
पूछिए.
see how it respond. How do I treat the earnest money of a bidder at banknet who is disquali disqualified afterwards? He was H1. Wait a minute, I'll tell you the answer. He was H1.
So well, as I said, this is
Well,
not.
I asked the question, how do I treat the earnest money of a bidder who was an H1 at the banknet who was disqualified later on? When a bidder, because is generally forfeited by IB. This is good. Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
well, the training is not complete, and as it is every day it requires training. We
No,
haven't. Yeah.
no. See, what has happened is the summary of it is the H1 bidder at the banknet is disqualified after the auction. The EM is generally forfeited. I like the word generally forfeited as per the IBC regulatory intent and standard practice, provided the disqualification is due to the fault such as ineligibility. The liquidator should act in accordance with the auction terms and report and the matter as required. Insofar as the answer is concerned, answer is absolutely right, because I deliberately use these because this is, you have to take the answer from the FAQ of banknet also. So not only you have to go to that liquidation guidelines and regulations, but also the FAQ of banknet. The practical challenge, Mr. Grover, I'll tell you what happened is when you are into the insolvency and liquidation, generality, you get an answer. But when you get into an
Situation
assignment and when your head is out, when your head is there, when your neck is there, then this generality,
doesn't
uh,
work.
this this generality really, I don't know, should I say help or disturb? Because generalities say you have to do this. Um, so, yes, in general, this answer is absolutely correct. However, it
No,
has to be
why didn't you try, what was showing on the right side? Now let's explore. Over
uh,
here in the parameters, what was your query mode?
yeah, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I did not. My query mode was global.
Okay, instead of going global, go hybrid. Let's see what happens. Ask the same question in a hybrid mode.
Just a minute. Well, it's sort of thinking. It's sort of thinking. Yes, treatment of EM. Yeah, key principle. Now it start with the case loss, then liquidator role, then EM for it's the answer is slightly more structured.
Correct.
It's structured. Practical summary. If the H1 bidder at the bank is disqualified, declares the highest bidder due to the failure to meet the eligibility or other fault attributable to the bidder. Now this is an addition to the earlier one. Now it shows that if it is being declared disqualified because of fault which is attributable to the bidder, their earnest money is generally forfeited in accordance with the IBC practice and auction terms. The liquidator should ensure compliance with the stated process and document of action taken. Yeah, it's more structured when you get into hybrid mode. The answer is structured in a better fashion. There is
But
no
it's
doubt.
the same answer. But it's the same answer.
The answer is same. You know why the answer is same? Because you cannot have, considering the ifs and buts and the COCs and the SCCs, and there are so many things going on. It's very difficult to have a specific answer unless and until the law is very tightly defined, very tightly. Mean, if your
Hmm.
claim is below 1 crore of rupees, you cannot initiate a CIRP. Now, this is very tight. It's tight with some figures. But if it has some phrases and all that stuff, it's not tight. It's given to multiple interpretation and the COC comes in. You know,
Correct. So
so
it has to use these words, generality,
yes,
etc.
but it's a very nice, typically, these sessions are for CPE, sessions are for claiming the CPE sessions, switching off
CPRs.
the camera, sleeping. Uh,
It's not really for learning anything.
but this session turned out to be an extremely creative one in the sense, naturally it's an ongoing journey, but I won't
Yeah.
take much of your time. This time is yours, sir. Thank you very much.
No, 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 no. That was very nice. Anyone else would like to try? And if there's a specific question, you know what, Gurbinder, you can try a different mode and try a global or this thing. If you bypass, it will not give you any of these answers. It goes direct to OpenAI and give you a very general answer.
No,
So
I
what
will
I'm
be
trying to
using
say,
it. I will be using it in my current assignment, in my ongoing this assignment. I'll definitely be putting a use of it. But
yeah,
what happened is if I'm using this or what I found from my own personal experience is that Grok, if for the legal kind of practice,
no,
for
it won't
legal
work.
practice, Grok is far better than the
Better.
I found it Grok. I found it better.
Okay.
Uh, that's my personal experience. So again, but however, I what I do is I use ChatGPT, I use Grok, and then I make a sort of comparison, and then I proceed forward. There
So
have
what we have is, you go ahead.
there have been times when, like, in this present case, one of the chatbot was not adequately empowered to give me the right answers, and then I asked him, "How are the changes which have been brought about by the IBC in July 2000?" Because the changes occurred in July 2025. So he said, "Oh yes, I forgot. There have been changes." So, I mean, you can't leave everything on the chatbots,
You
but
have to dig, yeah.
it's a good way of sort of managing your office uh, without spending so much of a money on esteemed professionals. These are my own personal experiences of using these chatbots for the last 1 to 2 years.
और कोई सवाल, anybody who wants to ask a question, not to me, but to even the chatbot, they can freely go here. It's all free. And you can ask your personal questions and see. And we are not training anything. So we just, although, yeah.
Am I
So,
audible, sir?
yes, ma'am.
Sir, this website, Agentic Professionals Network, whether is it real-time updated or it also has a training date?
No, no, it's not real time. It's not real time. We are doing it ourselves. There is no training date. There is no formal this thing to it. We're
Okay.
just feeding it with our, whatever data that we collect. And it could be outdated or whatever, but it'll still give you a decent answer, no
Okay.
matter how asked you.
You have
So,
your own model.
well, the model, the this is our ultimate goal is to fine tune our own model. बट राइट नाउ एज आई सेड देयर इज अनदर लेयर ऑन टॉप ऑफ द मॉडल। आप मॉडल को कॉन्टेक्स्ट को, आप ना मॉडल तो वही रखोगे, आप मॉडल ओपन एआई का रख सकते हो, ग्रॉक का रख सकते हो, क्लॉड का रख सकते हो, लेकिन उसके ऊपर एक कॉन्टेक्स्ट का एक लेयर होता है। वो आपको, आप उसको डेटा भेजते हो कि ये 15 चीजों हैं, ये 15 चीजों के अंदर से ही मेरे को जवाब देना, तो वो बंद जाता है। सो
Okay.
ये जो अभी हम कर रहे हैं, इट्स अ कॉन्टेक्चुअल लेयर ऑन टॉप ऑफ अ मॉडल, बट द मॉडल continues to remain chat GPT. Although the endeavor is eventually to collect enough data, and I think by the end of the year or something, we should be able to make our own model as well.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thank you.
हाँ अतुल जी,
Sir,
can I speak?
yes, sir, Rajesh ji.
Yeah. First of all, yeah, I thank you for showing this very creative kind of session. Maybe everybody will not understand, but nonetheless, you have thrown open the entire ocean of prompts to all of us, which we
Correct.
can use. If we can use, then it will generate a lot of possibilities.
Correct.
Now, as directed by you, I have opened that APNet website. Although I am doing it from mobile, not from PC. So
It's not a mobile
slightly,
friendly, huh? It's not very mobile
yeah,
friendly.
yeah,
You
yeah,
have
yeah.
to open it
Okay,
on a
okay.
laptop.
No, it's okay, no problem.
Acha.
So there I went through various, on the first line, there is a chat,
Tabs.
then resources, then agentic, all that. I've seen all that thing very nicely made. Now my query is only one simple thing. There is one calendar you have provided, and there you have three options are given: calendar, then some other name is there, foreign sounding.
Canva. So उसमें
हाँ,
ऐसा है, मैं
कैनवा.
आपको बता।
तो
So
सर 1 मिनट.
हम्म,
तो मेरा क्वेरी यही है कि अगर मैं एक मेरा नया केस लगता है मेरे नाम पे, CIRP, तो मैं
करेक्ट।
उसका नाम उधर दे दूं और डेट
हाँ
ऑफ कमेंसमेंट दे दूं तो एंटायर चार्ट आ जाएगा.
हाँ,
तो कैसे करने का वो प्लीज
वो
जरा
दिखा,
दिखाइए,
वो
प्लीज
दिखाता हूँ।
आपकी स्क्रीन पे.
मैं अपनी, एवरीवन कैन सी माय स्क्रीन राइट।
हाँ,
सो
गिव सम डमी डेट लाइक 1 जनवरी
मैं
और
डालता हूँ,
समथिंग
मैं
व्हाट
दे
एवर
रहा
यू
हूँ जी,
फील.
मैं दे रहा हूँ। अंडर एजेंटिक नेटवर्क नो देर आर दीज चैटबॉट्स, यू कैन
हाँ,
गो टू दिस चैटबॉट एंड आस्क क्वेश्चंस, यू कैन चेक आउट द डेटा सेट्स।
हाँ,
जो ब्लू हैं वो डाल दिए हैं, जो रेड हैं वो डालने हैं। तो एवरीथिंग इज इन द,
हाँ.
अभी एवरीथिंग इज स्टेट ऑफ फ्लक्स। मगर अभी भी अगर आप सवाल
ओके.
पूछोगे तो ढंग से सवाल ये चैटबॉट आपको देगा, ये सब फ्री है। ये है एजेंट्स जिसके अंदर ये काम करेंगे आपके लिए। ये तो आप सवाल पूछोगे तो जवाब देगा, वो काम तो आपको ही करना है। यहाँ पे वो
बराबर.
आपको, यहाँ पे वो काम कहता मैं खुद करूंगा, मेरे को बताओ क्या काम है। तो मैं उसका भी आपको, आई कैन गिव अ डेमो नाउ, और मे बी आई थिंक वी हैव टाइम, वी कैन डू दैट। बट दीज आर
हाँ
डिफरेंट
सर,
टाइप ऑफ।
जैसा मैंने बोला कि एक नया केस मेरे को अलॉट होता है तो ABC कंपनी फॉर एग्जांपल, एंड द डेट ऑफ कमेंसमेंट इज 1 जनवरी, एंड आई वांट द एंटायर टाइमलाइन एज पर
चलो
IBC.
उधर चलते हैं पहले। सो व्हाट
हाँ,
हैपेंस इज
तो
अंडर
बस.
रिसोर्सेज, अंडर रिसोर्सेज देर आर टूल्स, फॉर्म्स, प्रॉम्प्ट्स एंड फॉर्मेट्स। टूल्स के अंदर अगर आप
हाँ,
कैलेंडर पे जाते हो, देयर इज अ कैलकुलेटर जहाँ पे वो फी
हाँ.
कैलकुलेट कर सकता है। आप कुछ, मतलब यू ट्राइंग टू मेक दिस, ट्राइंग टू फॉर्मलाइज अ फी कैलकुलेटर, you can then go back for reasons. Calendar is what you're asking. So if it's a resolution process or a
यस.
liquidation process, for example, if it's a resolution process, you select a date and say, you say 21 तारीख को हुआ, तो उसने बना दिया आपका। और यहाँ पे आप अपना नाम अगर
हाँ,
चाहो तो
करेक्ट.
यहाँ पे आप अपना नाम डाल सकते हो। यहाँ पे असाइनमेंट का जो भी कॉर्पोरेट डेटा है, मैं लिख देता हूँ, कॉर्पोरेट डेटा, ठीक है, एंड इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल इज फॉर एग्जांपल अतुल ब्रो। अब ये करने के बाद, ये आने के बाद करना क्या है? करना ये है कि आपको ये वाली फाइल डाउनलोड करनी है। जब आप ये फाइल डाउनलोड करोगे, ये ये आपकी कैलेंडर फाइल है। तो मैंने इसको फाइल को डाउनलोड किया, ये मेरी फाइल यहाँ डाउनलोड हो गई, ये रही मेरी फाइल। अब जब मैंने फाइल का क्या करना है, अगर मैं अपने कैलेंडर में जाता हूँ, सपोजिंग आई एम यूजिंग गूगल कैलेंडर और जोहो कैलेंडर, कोई भी कैलेंडर में, सब कैलेंडर्स के लिए इक्वली एप्लीकेबल है। अगर मैं यहाँ पे जाता हूँ, सपोजिंग जोहो कैलेंडर, सो ओके, ओके, Okay, I'm signed in, and I go to my Zoho calendar. Sorry. Okay.
इसका
So this could be true for Google Calendar or anything. अब मैं इस कैलेंडर के अंदर मेरे को वो जो ये वाली फाइल है, अगर मैं इसको ड्रैग करके इसके अंदर ड्रॉप कर देता हूँ, तो कहता है कि मेरे को एक इंपोर्ट आई है, उसके अंदर 16 आइटमें हैं, मैं इंपोर्ट कर दूं। हम बोलते हैं हाँ कर दो, तो उसने कैलेंडर में 16 आइटमें इंपोर्ट कर दी हैं। सो नाउ इट शोज दैट कॉर्पोरेट डेटा पब्लिक अनाउंसमेंट फॉर इनविटेशन ऑफ क्लेम्स बाय अतुल ग्रोवर का ये आ गया 24 के अंदर। और फिर ये बाकी जो चीज़ें हैं ये, if I were to show it to you instead of day, if I could, how does it go? Week, I go into month. So you see over here,
सब समझ गया।
है ना? तो
एक्सेलेंट।
आपने इंपोर्ट किया तो आपके पास सारा इंपोर्ट आ गया है। ये देखो कॉर्पोरेट डेटा
हाँ,
का 21 तारीख को है, फिर 5 तारीख को है, फिर 24 तारीख को कुछ है, फिर अगले दिसंबर में, दिसंबर के अंदर ये 4-5 चीजें। ये कॉर्पोरेट डेटा इज योर कॉर्पोरेट डेटा एक्चुअली, दिस शुड हैव बीन एबीसी और XYZ लिमिटेड. So if I were to click here, it says XYZ Limited is in the under resolution for which submission of claims is due, and this could be your name, and the insolvency professional could be you, etc. और वो कह रहा है जी बताओ, और आपका आपने कैलेंडर लोड कर दिया। अब इसमें आप अलग अलग तरीके से अलग अलग कैलेंडर लोड कर सकते हैं।
एक्सेलेंट सर। सर कैन यू गो बैक टू दैट एक्सेल शीट?
Just a second. I go back to the Excel sheet here. Yeah.
जो
Thanks.
हाँ, या सर इसमें एक
Hold
मेरा
on.
सजेशन है, जस्ट टेक इट एज ए सजेशन।
हाँ जी।
ये डेट के आगे, डेट कॉलम के आगे और एक डेट कॉलम, वन इज एस्टिमेटेड, वन इज एक्चुअल,
हाँ, ओके।
और उसके और एक कॉलम डिले इफ एनी।
You want to use your calendar as a project management, आप उसी के अंदर ही डिले वगैरह हो जाए तो आप उसी के अंदर ही लिखना शुरू करना चाहेंगे। वो
एग्जैक्टली एग्जैक्टली सर।
वो बन जाएगा, दैट इज।
दिस इज सजेशन सर,
नो नो,
आपने जो भी बनाया बहुत बढ़िया बनाया है,
नहीं नहीं, वो
बहुत
तो
बढ़िया बनाया है।
100% जो आपने कहा है
तो
ना।
इसमें खाली दो कॉलम आप ऐड कर देंगे तो और मस्त हो जाएगा।
आप कल यहाँ पे आइएगा, और आप कल इसके अंदर कैलेंडर में देखिएगा जो आप कह रहे हो वो हो चुका होगा।
सर
अतुल सर,
एक्सेलेंट, थैंक यू वेरी मच
एंड
सर।
this is calendar right now. This is calendar is one part, and I don't know
हाँ
why I keep
अतुल सर
shifting it.
एक सेकंड ले सकता हूँ आपका?
हाँ जी
थोड़ा सा
बोलिए।
मैं डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो गया था। अगर आप काइंडली इसका जो इंपोर्ट है गूगल कैलेंडर में ना, 2 सेकंड
हम्म।
लगेगा आपको अगर एक बार दोबारा करके।
गूगल
सो
गूगल
सॉरी,
कैलेंडर। ओके, सो आई गो टू
सॉरी
गूगल।
फॉर
नो
इनकन्वीनियंस।
नो नो नो, कोई दिक्कत ही नहीं है।
तो
सो आई
थैंक
गो
यू
टू माई,
अतुल जी।
यू वेलकम सर। So I go to my Google Calendar,
यस।
right? And this time, let me modify this a little. So let it be resolution process, but let it be, say, the insolvency professional is Rubinder,
या
and the assignment title is, say, ABC, and also XYZ Limited. ठीक है जी। And I don't know why I touch this, so गायब क्यों हो जाता है भाई? So X, what's wrong with my system? I download this Excel, वो आ गया, डाउनलोड हो गया।
हाँ,
Now, sorry,
ठीक है सर प्लीज।
windows are so many. Now I go to my Google Calendar. Shoo. And I go and I pull this ABCXYZ over here. Did I pull it? Mhm. Which calendar to pull? Wait. Mhm. This is strange. How do I import? It used to import. अपने आप हो जाता था. Okay, go here. Did I stop the import or something? Import.
अच्छा उधर import है, ठीक है.
Select your file from the computer. Okay, it doesn't pull it directly. It says यहाँ बताओ.
Got it.
Then I go here. Then I go to the XYZ.
Got it.
Then I say open and add to which calendar. So okay, add to IP calendar. Import and imported.
Got it, sir.
Then I go back and in IP this calendar. If I were to go here, there it is.
That's great. Thank you, sir.
ABC XYZ import this. You're the professional,
very much.
etc. Those two columns I will add and इसके अंदर ना बिकॉज दिस इज एन ओल्ड वन इसके बाद हमने इसको अपडेट नहीं किया इसको भी एक बार रिव्यू करना पड़ेगा कि ये अप टू डेट है कि नहीं है आई हैव टू डबल चेक ऑन दिस आल्सो बिकॉज ये पुराना है ऑल्दो ये चल रहा है होना तो यही चाहिए मतलब अभी के लिए आपका इतना तो हो जाएगा बट आई होप T03 14 21 23 30 40 ठीक है पूरा ही लग रहा है ठीक है जी. So there are two ways. Zoho, you just drag it, and Gmail, you have to go through that import process. And not only that, this is one tool. So if you go to Kanban, this is a different level. So Kanban के अंदर आप बोलते हो कि मेरे को resolution की सारी tasks चाहिए, तो वो आपको इस तरह से पूरी स्विम लेन के साथ आपको पूरे के पूरे टास्क बताए मतलब कौन कौन से ड्यू हैं वो आपके पता चल जाएंगे. नाउ यू कैन ड्रैग दिस. You can drag this, so you can import this into your, well, you'll have to use, I mean, we use, आप CSV आप डाउनलोड करके कुछ भी कर सकते हो इसके साथ.
ये
हम
बहुत
इसको
बढ़िया बनाया होगा सर.
हम इसको यूज करते हैं अपने प्रोजेक्ट मैनेजमेंट टूल के अंदर. सो लेकिन आप इसको अगर CSV डाउनलोड करोगे तो आप एक्सेल शीट पे काम करना शुरू कर सकते हो. हाँ जी विनीत मैम, विनीत सर.
Sir, I was just trying this website.
Yeah.
Yes, I put one question on the chatbot that the time limit for which after conclusion of CIRP, the RP needs to keep the email account active.
I
So
wouldn't know that
this is my
answer.
query. Now, what it answered
Yeah.
is this one was general thing, then a key point. The regulation 4C specifically require that the process email account must be kept active for a period of at least 6 months after the conclusion of the CIRP.
Is it true?
No. Now, when I check the regulation 4C, it nowhere prescribe any time limit. So then I ask him whether regulation 4C provides a 6 months period. Then it answers nowhere in the regulation it is provided that there is a 6 months period for which we must keep.
So what we are trying to do here is that is why these data sets are becoming very important.
Yeah.
अगर आप इस डेटा सेट के बाहर कोई सवाल पूछते हो ना तो उसको वो इट कैन हेलुसिनेट. उसने 6 मंथ जरूर कहीं ना कहीं पढ़ा होगा. उसने ईमेल को किसी और आपने कागज के साथ जोड़ दिया होगा कि 6 महीने तक आपको वैसे तो 8 साल रखने होते हैं. बट इट मस्ट हैव फिगर्ड समथिंग आउट, मस्ट हैव सेड समथिंग. एज आई सेड दैट यू हैव टू बी केयरफुल. आपका क्वेरी मोड क्या था?
Okay.
Just
Because
check
what
on the
it,
query.
because if we see the language, it says it specifically require that
आप,
it should be so now
आपका क्वेरी मोड क्या था? क्वेरी मोड क्या था?
hybrid.
Okay,
So I
hybrid था.
mentioned.
So what was your question again? What is the
The time limit for which after conclusion of CIRP the RP needs to keep the email account active?
what is the time limit for which after after the
I can share the
process
screen.
RP needs to keep the email account active. Okay. You see, we haven't fed it with this data. As I said, ना ये सिर्फ ये जो data set है.
Yeah. Now, here the answer is different.
So it does not specify, the regulation does not specify explicit time limit. और मैंने भी hybrid में ही किया है. Related record retention requirement. Liquidators required for minimum 3 years in physical, 8 years in electronic. And answer तो बराबर है. Again, you see, this is why we say, and if you see, it's checking CRP regulation 4C and liquidation 12A, or both related to process email.
Right.
So to that extent, it is doing. So this is really the challenge. How do we contain the tiger, as to say, and then get it to answer only correctly, and also give us correct references. And so my suggestion is, since we are making this chatbot specifically with these data sets in mind, and I said that this is not up to date, there's a whole lot of things that are missing. Half of it is read anyway. And अभी के लिए आप इसको use करिए. Or and if hybrid doesn't, so supposing instead of hybrid, if I were to go naive, for example, what happens? And I ask the same question. तो ये जो पैरामीटर्स है ना, ये अभी तो हमने सिर्फ क्वेरी मोड की बात कर रहे हैं, रिस्पॉन्स भी समझ में आता है. ये टॉप के क्या है, ये टोकन लिमिट क्या है, और ये हिस्ट्री टर्न्स क्या है, और कॉन्टेक्स्ट और प्रॉम्प्ट वगैरह. सो these are all fancy things. You'll have to keep coming back to this website because we'll be putting all the details of all these things. And anyway, let's ask this question first. This is naive mode. Now, what does it say? It says, according to the insolvency regulation, during CIRP, required to open a process email, use it for all correspondence. If an IRP is replaced, the credentials of the email must be handed over. Transition to liquidation. If the RP is replaced by liquidator, the credentials must be handed over. ठीक है, further placement. Time limit. It does not specify explicit time limit. So I do not know. आपका सवाल क्या था फिर? आपका 6 महीने कैसे उसने बोला? तो यहाँ तो बोल रहा नहीं है.
नहीं, हाँ, means I can share the screen to
No,
understand.
you must be right. I'm just trying to say, is there a change is there a change? आपके references क्या दिए थे उसने नीचे जब आपके?
References, 1 minute. References, CIRP regulation 4C 12A, regulation 4C description and relationship, process email account description relationship.
Anyway, so
4C 12A.
हाँ नहीं, वो तो सेम ही दे रहा है, तो I do not know. We can't. Yes. So the question remains. Let's coming back to hallucination then. अभी देखिए आपके सामने, आपने सवाल पूछा, कुछ दिया, मैंने सवाल पूछा, 2 बार पूछा, इस फॉर्मेट में पूछा, इस फॉर्मेट में पूछा, इसको देखो और फॉर्मेट में पूछ लेते हैं. लोकल क्या, ये भी देख लेते हैं. एंड यस, द क्वेश्चन रिमेन्स कि अगर हम question, yeah, there is another way. You know how people strategize? They ask the same question and they send 5 different agents. ये भी यही बोल रहा है. No specific time limit, 8 years, 39A. Mandates the electronic record related to insolvency process, which may include email correspondence, must be preserved for minute. Okay, the email correspondence must be preserved for 8 years. Physical is 3 years, no specific time limit, 8 years. 39A, preservation of records regulation. So I think the answer is that maybe you ask the question 2 times in a different format with a different query mode and see if there is a change of answer. So not only do we need to control the data set and feed it correctly, but we also need to ask under different parameters to make sure it works. But if you were to ask the same question, say to an outside chatbot, बाहर वाले को पूछ के देखिए क्या होता है. इसको अगर हम ऐसा करते हैं और इसको ये पूछते हैं, let's see. Now there is no context, there is nothing. but he's also giving the correct answer. After resolution plan is approved, after liquidation is ordered. Well, it doesn't give you the exactly, see, we, उसने ठीक है जवाब दिया, लेकिन ये जवाब पे मेरे को भरोसा कम है, क्योंकि ये बड़ा जेनेरिक सा है। ये क्योंकि पकड़ में है, इसीलिए मेरे को पता है कि उसने कहाँ से पढ़ा है, एंड आई कैन एक्चुअली ओपन द बुक एंड चेक इट, एंड we have an internal system where this is active, as in I can click here and it will open this directly over here, although it's not public. Public को सिर्फ reference हम देते हैं, internally we can open it and check it. So I don't know. और इसको पूछ के देख लेती हूँ. Actually, I should do one more thing. We can ask him. ये prompt देते हैं. इसको बोलते हैं convert the prompt into automat prompt format. Here is your question rewritten in automat format. The objective is to find practical time limit within which resolution professional should ask a corporate debtor official email account. Output required is in a concise and policy aligned, whether the IBC specifies time limit, etc. Constraint, give your plain language. Context is whatever context this is. And now when I copy this and I ask him the same, जवाब तो दे ही देगा. Ask him the same question. And he says, okay, give me an answer. Then it says, it's rephrasing it. Give me an answer.
prompt ही दे दिए.
हाँ नहीं, prompt तो मैं prompt ही दूंगा ना उसको तो. So here is my, let me remove this and also remove this. So doing so, I'll say, let me remove this and I'll say, okay, answer. What? Answer now, for example. There is no fixed time limit. Common practice until records are this thing. After resolution plan is approved, accounts are generally kept active. अब देखो ये क्या कह रहा है. After resolution plan, it's kept active for 30-90 days. ये इसको कहाँ से मिला? So यहाँ पर इसने अपना ये अपनी तरफ से जोड़ दिया. After liquidation begins, how long? अच्छा ये accounts now, it's not telling me it's an email account. It's looking at accounts as if it's financial accounts. 1 or 3 months, data backup, etc. So for email accounts only, for example, assuming that I'm asking the question in continuation and it knows the context. So, UNTS, let's say. Here's the focus simple answer. There's no fixed rule. How long I must keep the email account active? Industry practice, keeping email account throughout CIRP. After resolution plan is approved, email stays active. See, again, it's saying 30 to 60 days. And the worst is, I do not know how to counter check. I don't know. It's not telling me section 4A, 12A, 14B. मेरे को जब तक वो नहीं पता चलेगा, I can't trust this. So we have no option to eventually shift over to something like this, where this becomes very critical. And so that we can open a book on the side and quickly look at it. This is just a quick way of referencing what's written in a book. Although when I open this up, it will show me the text. Yeah. We can have okay. Yeah. So as I said, resources are, I've told you this calendar, this thing, these are the various forms. We are trying to figure out how to, get them to fill the forms, etc. for us. And abhi to link lunki hai. I think some of them are working, some of them are not. Most of them are not. Anyway, these are the prompts and this is what we have gone through. So you're most welcome to explore these prompts. We'll be adding more. And as I said, the plan is to make an experienced to make to make a booklet out of prompts which have been tried and tested. These are exploratory prompts where you'll say कि ऐसा हो सकता है, लेकिन ऐसा किसने किस पे किया है और उसका क्या नतीजा निकला है, अगर वो मिल जाए तो that will be good. But again, it requires a lot of this thing. These are formats. You can copy paste these formats and give it to the prompt. You can use it for prompting and get the chatbot to give a good draft. This is academics, same thing, although it's not even full, but we're going to put in case studies of, in this format, etc. And then this is APNet, and you can join here. Oh, these are the set of mediators. Look, let me show you one final thing, and then so right now we are also trying to make a list of mediators. The people without AFA, अभी हमने उनका नाम डाल दिया है, दो चार को पूछ के बाकियों का, and I will show you what this is about. So here it is. So assuming anyone who doesn't have a valid AFA, I mean, I don't, so I don't mind, but if somebody wants to give their name, I can, it'll be little. So anyway, if I were to say Atul Grover, he'll say this is where I am. Okay, it's showing wrong over here. Let's say Mr. Grover दिखा. So if I were to see here, जलेश जी आप हैं ग्रुप में अभी आज नहीं है. So anyway, you know what? I mean, this is something, this is an agent which will run and which will sort of convince the banks to give Mr. Jalesh Grover an assignment for mediation. So it's more like a proposal from whosoever side. So you could actually choose a bank or somebody, and then you can send your biodata or a detailed proposal, etc. Anyway, I'm not going to show you the demo right now, but just to give you an example, that's what it is. These are the technologies we've gone through. These are the various models. So there is something called as embedding model, generative model, retrieval model. We haven't loaded all these things, but this is all technology thing. These are the various security things we need to take. These are languages I've already explained. And if we were to show you Katala, now Katala has something like this. It's a more languagey kind of a thing. But such huge text can be converted into very simple code, and this code is human readable. We can read it just by focusing a little more. You'll be say, अच्छा अच्छा ये इसका मतलब ये है. For example, let capital gain is equal to sale price minus purchase price. So no big deal. If capital gain is greater than 0, then let the deduction amount be minimum of either of the two. And then you just print that your claim a deduction of such and such. Point being that ये सारी इंग्लिश में यही चीज लिखी है, और अगर हम ये सारी लैंग्वेज को ट्रेन करके ये चीजें निकाल के ये बना दें, तो इसके लिए तो नॉर्मल मॉडल्स पहले ही तैयार बैठे हैं. You can leverage it completely, just like people are losing jobs in programming language simply because computer is programming everything. This is not far behind. So that's another caveat. So I think we've had enough for today. Any questions?
सर ये आपने जो पूरा दिखाया विदाउट लॉगिन करके दिखाया, और अगर हम लॉगिन करेंगे तो और क्या फायदा है?
बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन है. अभी जो लॉगिन के अंदर है वही लॉगिन के बाहर है, पर आने वाले समय में देखते हैं क्या करना.
आने वाले समय में तो पैसे भी देने पड़ेंगे बाबूजी.
सर ऐसा है ना,
अच्छा
ये
अच्छा।
none of this, yes, see, at the end of the day it's not about, yeah, see, it could be about making money, but
Yeah, it has to be.
it could, see, in any case you have to break even, and these things, these models are
Absolutely.
running after all. अगर आप चैट जीपीटी या इनको जब आप कॉल करते हो, तो अभी वो सवाल तो आप सीधा पूछ सकते हो फ्री में, लेकिन अगर आप प्रोग्रामेटिकली कॉल करते हो तो पैसे लेते हैं।
हाँ हाँ, नहीं नहीं, वो तो सर,
हम्म।
वो तो कोई सेंस
वो,
ही नहीं बनती, मतलब देयर इज नथिंग कॉल्ड फ्री
हाँ, नो,
लाइफ।
इवन इफ यू आस्क दीज क्वेश्चंस डायरेक्टली, पहले वो बोलेगा लॉग इन करो, फिर वो बोलेगा $20 दो, फिर बोलेगा अगर 4-5 लोग इकट्ठे अगर काम करना चाहते हैं कंपनी तो $200 दो। So that's one way of them making money because they're spending a lot of money. I
बट
mean,
सर, जैसे
let's be
आप
real.
इस लाइन, मतलब अब मैं क्या बोलूँ, इस लाइन में हो या एक काम कर रहे हो, शब्दों का हेर फेर है, समझ लीजिएगा मैं कहने की कोशिश क्या कर रहा हूँ। तो ये जो व्हाट वी हियर अबाउट एलएलएम मॉडल्स एंड ऑल दैट स्टफ, तो ये जो मॉडल्स हैं चैट जीपीटी, एक चीज ने मेरे को बड़ा हमेशा परेशान करा है, और मेरे को लगा नहीं कि चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट की किस फोरम में ये सवाल पूछा जाए। फॉर्चुनेटली ये टेक की फोरम बन गई आईपी को छोड़ के। तो इंडिया के लोग सारे सॉफ्टवेयर वाले बनाते हैं इंडिया में, वो डंकीज जॉब सारे कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जो वो ढंग का काम होता है ना, जैसे हम बोले हमारा विंडोज है, हमारा ये जीरो बटा सन्नाटा। सो ये कुछ है पॉसिबिलिटी, मतलब
हाँ हाँ
चीजों को
हाँ हाँ हाँ
सुधारने की?
हाँ 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 हाँ। एआई के आने के बाद बहुत बढ़ गई।
अच्छा,
एआई
सो
के
यू
आने के
फील
बाद,
दैट वी दिस कंट्री माइट बी इन ए
नो,
पोजीशन?
you look at Zoho. I just showed you
Yeah,
Zoho.
Zoho is absolutely brilliant. It's a
हाँ तो
brilliant,
जोहो इज टू गुड। मैं तो
brilliant.
सबको बोलता हूँ, वो एरटाई थोड़ा सा यूज किया, सब पीछे दोबारा हट गए, अब एवरीबॉडी गॉन बैक टू व्हाट्सएप एंड बट
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 जोहो ने सर, जो जो जोहो का जो व्हाट्सएप वाला ये जो वो था, जो उन्होंने प्रोनाउंस करा था,
एरटाई, हाँ।
जो भी था वो, उसमें बेसिकली आपकी जो एनक्रिप्टेड मैसेजेस
नहीं,
हैं।
वो ठीक कर दिया था। ओहो, आप समझे नहीं हो, तो छोटी सी बात थी यार। इट यू वर जस्ट आस्किंग फॉर अ स्मॉल फीचर विच इज नॉट रियली दिस थिंग सो सुपर क्रिटिकल, बट दे हैव सॉर्टेड इट आउट।
बट सर एक बात बताइए, जोहो के जो वो हैं सर्वर्स हैं, दे आर बेस्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया।
नो,
मेरा वैसे छोटा सा है।
नो, 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 दिस बेस्ड इन इंडिया। Zoho
जोहो
servers are
का
based in India. Zoho chats are all encrypted. Sorry, go ahead.
no, माई पॉइंट इज डिफरेंट सर। जो व्हाट्सएप का डेटा, जो व्हाट्सएप का सर्वर है, या जो फेस टाइम का है, या जो उसके आई मैसेजेस का है, दे आर बेस्ड आउट ऑफ इंडिया। एम आई राइट
Yeah,
और रॉन्ग?
yeah, 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 100%.
Now the point is, there are so many people who use these kind of services for multiple uses, which you are already well aware of. Now,
Yeah.
if the server of a company that you are using of is based out of India, can the Indian investigator get into the company and get
No,
the data from there? So,
no, 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 you
are
can't
they
touch
well
it.
protected? Are there any laws in India which protect
No,
the data from,
no.
these
सर
agencies?
वहाँ ट्रम्प बैठा है, वो बोलेगा जी भाग जाओ यहाँ से, वो
नहीं नहीं नहीं
नहीं
नहीं, मैं
रन
इंडिया की
करेंगे।
बात कर रहा हूँ सर, मैं
सर
इंडिया की बात
इंडियन
कर रहा हूँ, मैं
इंडियन
जोहो की
लॉज
बात कर रहा
इंडियन
हूँ।
लॉज इंडियन लॉज ओनली रन इफ दे हैव एन ऑफिस इन इंडिया, दैट इज व्हाई दे से आप अपना ऑफिस यहाँ लो जी, ऑफिस तो हम ले आएंगे, सर्वर वहीं है।
हाँ,
और
वही तो मैं
जवाब
कह रहा
हम
हूँ सर। अगर मैं
आपका
जोहो,
ऊपर।
अगर कोई आदमी जोहो को यूज कर रहा है, तो उसका जो एक रिस्क फैक्टर है कि उसका जो डेटा है वो इन्वेस्टिगेटिव एजेंसी के हाथ में
नहीं,
चला
नहीं,
जाएगा।
नहीं, 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 you're all wrong. No, Zoho servers are in India. End of story. Zoho is in India. Zoho laws are in India. Zoho servers are in India. Zoho is under complete control of India. So
ओके।
we should start using Zoho. और Zoho की जो एरटाई है उसको आप इसके ऊपर यूज करके देखो अपने लैपटॉप के ऊपर। जैसे वो खुलता है वेब डॉट चैट, हम खोलते हैं व्हाट्सएप, इट्स सो ब्यूटिफुल।
हम्म।
मतलब वो ऐसे, हाँ, इट ओपन्स इन डिफरेंट सेक्शंस एंड यू कैन प्ले अराउंड, it's a much better technology. We'll eventually also we have no option but to use it. You'll have to get over Gmail, Hotmail, Shortmail, ये सब बंद करना पड़ेगा। अभी पीछे
ओके।
जीमेल के कितने, अभी मैंने ही डाला था इसके ऊपर, व्हाट्सएप के ऊपर, जीमेल अकाउंट्स हैक्ड, कितने ये हैं वो हैं। नॉट दैट इट कांट हैपन इन इंडिया, बट द क्वेश्चन इज के वहां पे तो देर इज, we have to shift to India. And because of AI, the kind of quantum jump that we will see here is, I mean, what you see, even what we are trying to do, coming
ओके।
from a law and insolvency space, we're getting
हम्म।
into a tech space because if
Absolutely.
somebody will have to, ये तो हम वहाँ के तो चैट जीपीटी यूज ही नहीं कर सकते। तो हम तो अभी February में there's a big international AI conference happening in Delhi. It keeps happening. India, आप go through the news, भारत AI करके है। I mean, of course, we are struggling, but but we'll be there.
That's good.
Yeah.
Grover sir,
Sir,
yes, sir, you are going to make IPE.
agentic professional network. All the professionals who feel agentic within will have to come together and form an IPE or an association anyway, and prove it to, I mean, जितनी जल्दी यहाँ आएंगे उतना अच्छा है। बैंकों को भी यहीं आना पड़ेगा, आईबीबीआई भी यहीं पे मतलब आएगा। सो आईपीई का तो नहीं सोचा, बट यस, वी शुड ऑल थिंक अबाउट इट, स्पेशली
आईपी
द
के लिए आईपीई के लिए वो जो सब्सक्रिप्शन है ना मैनेजमेंट में, वो अभी सर्कुलर इश्यू हुआ है या अंडर डिस्कशन में है कि वो 1 पर्सन हैविंग 80% शेयर्स एंड
हाँ हाँ,
वन
5% कम
इज
से कम से कम।
5,000 रुपये ओनली। तो
राइट।
वो भी आएगा,
हाँ,
जल्दी आएगा वो सर्कुलर।
करेक्ट
तो इन
करेक्ट।
दैट कंडीशन देखिए, आपने इतना कुछ किया है, जो आज का सेशन में आपने इतना कुछ बताया है,
हाँ
तो ये तो आप ये भी कह रहे हैं कि ये सबके लिए ओपन है। और अगर थोड़ा सा भी अगर क्या कहते हैं, ये अगर नॉलेज है कंप्यूटर का, तो आपने तो सब कुछ बता रखा है इसमें। तो
हाँ,
इन दैट
देखिए,
कंडीशन व्हेन विदाउट सच कंडीशन कि आप इतना कुछ कर रहे हैं, तो क्यों नहीं आप आईपीई, नॉट बिग बट सम एक्सटेंड, अप टू 13, 15, 20 पीपल्स, जो आपकी आपकी नेचर से मेल खाते हैं, उनको इकट्ठा कर लीजिए। क्या बुराई है
बुरी
उसमें? वैसे देखा
बुरी
जाए तो
नहीं नहीं।
आईपी का मतलब भी यही है कि अकेला नहीं, ग्रुप का ही काम है सर। आपने रास्ते तो ढूंढ लिए हैं कि ये कैलेंडर बता देगा, उठिए बैठिए सोइए, है ना? लेकिन आदमी की जगह तो आदमी ही काम करेगा,
नहीं, वो
आपको अकेले नहीं कर पाओगे। ये बात सही है। हम अगर 5 आदमी मिल जाते हैं, तो इट विल बी बेटर फॉर ऑल 5 पर्सन्स।
देखिए, दो चीजें हैं।
तो
आइदर 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 सम आइदर मतलब ये सवाल हमारे भी जहन में आया था। आप
सर,
आईपी बनाते हो और अपने 10-20 लोगों के लिए ही ये टेक्नोलॉजी को कन्फाइन करके इंटरनली यू बिकम वेरी स्ट्रांग एंड यू बिकम वेरी एफिशिएंट एंड यू कैन प्रूव योरसेल्फ, बट द टेक्नोलॉजी लिमिट्स इटसेल्फ टू those partners within IPE, or you open it up for everybody so that हम आईपी बन के बिग फोर बने ना, जैसे मोदी साहब कहते हैं, कुछ कुछ देश
या
के लेवल की बात सोचें थोड़ी, इज another thought that we had. So right now we are thinking, आपको फिर अच्छा चलो, now that you have mentioned it, आपको एक और चीज।
वन थिंग सर, आपने कहा
हाँ,
कि 20 आदमी तक ही सीमित रहेंगे। ऐसा कुदरत ने ऐसा किया नहीं है।
नहीं मतलब
इंटेलिजेंट या
टेक्नोलॉजी,
इंटेलिजेंट नहीं होता,
नहीं
ये
वो
मान
आप,
के चलिए आप।
मेरा,
इंटेलिजेंट क्या इंटेलिजेंट नहीं होगा, बहुत रेयर केस में होता है। अगर 20 आदमी है, उसमें भी जो कैच करना चाहेगा, जिसके टीच होगा, अंदर डिजायर होगा, वही आगे बढ़ेगा। अदरवाइज सब नहीं होंगे 20 के 20। आप जैसे तो आप ही रहेंगे, ये निश्चित है। आप चाहे कितना ही बांट दो, कुछ नहीं होगा।
मेरा,
आप बांट ही रहे हो, काफी दिन हो गए।
हाँ हाँ
नहीं, लेकिन
तो वो ये,
अभी अतुल सर का जो मोटिव है
हाँ
कि जो
हाँ
उन्होंने
सर,
बनाया है पूरे आईपी
यस,
इकोसिस्टम को फायदा, वो बहुत अच्छा है। आई
हाँ हाँ।
डेफिनेटली सर अप्रिशिएट योर मोटिव कि ये इसका फायदा सभी को हो। और अभी तो आपने खोल खोल ही दिया है।
हाँ
और
सब
आज
कुछ
का ये
बता
जो
दिया।
सेशन है, जितने भी लोग देख रहे हैं 60-70, दे विल बी आफ्टर दिस सेशन इज ओवर एंड टिल टुमारो, एटलीस्ट दे विल एटलीस्ट वंस लॉग इन टू योर साइट।
ना
So that will
मल्टीप्लाई
be
बाई
your real
10,
success.
मल्टीप्लाई बाई
मैं
10, 75 मल्टीप्लाई बाई 10, 750। कल मॉर्निंग तक आपका पहुंच जाएगा लोगों के। यार वो अतुल सर ने
सर
मेरे
काफी ठीक
आपके
बता
मेरे
रखा
सर्वर का बैंडविड्थ बढ़ा दीजिए सर,
सर्वर
आपके
पर
सर्वर का
है। बढ़
बैंडविड्थ बढ़ा
जाए।
दीजिए। दिस
सर्वर
इज माय
बंद हो जाएगा।
सजेशन।
So just in case what you say happens, there may be a little this thing that it might be this thing, मैं अपने बंदों को बोलता हूँ,
सर,
in case there is a load and it says कि अभी रुको और ये थोड़ी देर के लिए रुक जाए, तो वो it will be very temporary. We'll fix it up, and that has nothing to do with the server bandwidth. It will be more to do with with the the changing our pricing with the open AI, उनके साथ
सर,
मतलब we'll have to shift to the next level of that.
सर सर
वेरी गुड सर, ऑल द बेस्ट।
थैंक यू सर, बहुत
थैंक यू
बहुत
सर, थैंक
धन्यवाद
यू।
सर।
हाँ जी, नो आई एम सो
आपने
हैप्पी।
काफी लोगों का हेल्प कर दिया। ये गुरविंदर सिंह जी ने भी अपनी बात कह दी, आज सीए हैं, वैसे तो सीए माई बाप है
हाँ,
आईबीसी के।
पर बहुत कम लोगों
लेकिन
ने बात करी है। आई आई वाज होपिंग देयर बी मेनी मोर पीपल हु विल बी
नहीं वो सुन
पार्टिसिपेटिंग।
सुन रहे हैं, सब सुन रहे हैं। लेकिन अच्छी बात है कि हम लोग ओपन में कहने लगे कि दिस इज प्रॉब्लम, हाउ टू फेस एंड हाउ, कहाँ हम पुट अप करें, किससे पूछें।
नहीं,
लेकिन
अब
काफी ठीक हो गया
आप मैं आपको एक और चीज दिखाता हूँ, नाउ दैट वी आर हियर।
सर।
So this was the association of the network that you're looking at, but this is the other side, which is the resolution bazaar. So this is the commercial part. जब कह रहे थे ना कि commercial का है, so there is investor watch. So we're looking at putting all the investment teasers here,
ओ
and then we also have all the corporate datas over here. So you can literally ask absolute, sorry, you can actually ask up to date status of a corporate data. So for example, give me a name of a corporate data, anyone? सपोजिंग आप चाय का बागान खरीदना चाहते हैं, तो आप यहाँ पे टी लिखिए, तो बता देगा कि चाय की कौन कौन से कॉर्पोरेट डेटास हैं which are टी related. And okay, this is team spirit. What is this?
मैं
कुमाली
मैंने ना
चाय. You
मैं
can
आपका
actually buy.
कंप्यूटर कंट्रोल नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ। अगर कर पाता तो मैं यहाँ बोलता फार्मा करिए ना सर, फार्मा।
हाँ, लिखो तो बोला।
फार्मा, ये मेरे को चाहिए भी। अगर
ये
कोई
लो,
सुन रहा हो किसी के पास हो तो कृपा करके मुझे संपर्क भी कर ले।
ये लो, ये लो, ये लो, एक सुप्रिया है यहाँ
हाँ,
पे। और ये एग्जैक्टली यहीं पे ही है जहाँ पे ये पिन है, भिवाड़ी में है। ठीक है जी।
कौन
और
सी, भिवाड़ी राजस्थान में है ना?
हाँ जी, ये कहाँ गया?
अच्छा,
रेवाड़ी नहीं, गुड़गांव के पास है।
गुड़गांव के
रेवाड़ी।
हैं।
ठीक है,
रेवाड़ी
मनेसर
भी
के
पास
पास।
में ही है, यस यस।
ठीक है ना,
भिवाड़ी के आसपास ही है ये।
रेवाड़ी के पास
ये
है। और
हरियाणा में पड़ता है।
ये है
कौन सी है?
वीजीआई, ये है वीजीआई
VGI,
फार्मा।
सुप्रिया और VG फार्मा ना।
और ये भी है, बहुत लोग, जितने मर्जी लोग। हर्षी फार्मास्यूटिकल। और ये भी है, मनीष फार्मा।
बढ़िया हो गया सर।
हाउ कम यू नॉट अवेयर, ये देखो ये भी है। ये कौन सा है? बायोटेक फार्मा। और ये
क्या बात है सर।
फार्मास्यूटिकल प्रोडक्ट्स। एंड देन थ्री ओवर हियर। So you can actually go to teasers also. यहाँ पे भी you can under
No, the
pharma.
thing is, Atul, you have to pay for this kind of a data that you are scrolling in. You
Yes,
have to.
नहीं,
eventually.
I'm not talking about eventually. I'm talking right now at
You see,
5:35.
it has a buy now button. If you click on buy now, it says you have to buy, and you can actually, you
Okay.
have to pay
The
with Razor
name,
Pay.
yeah, the names are available. The names are available. In case you want the details, then you got to pay for that. No problem.
नेचुरल, हाँ
We'll
हाँ
bill the
हाँ
client.
हाँ 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 हाँ। तो देखिए,
ये
आफ्टर
अच्छी
ऑल,
चीज है।
पीछे पीछे, why is this not going away?
बढ़िया बढ़िया बढ़िया। पेमेंट तो हम कर देंगे सर, कोई चक्कर वाली बात ही नहीं है।
And this is investor watch, right? Only for the investor point. Then there is a creditor watch, and then you can again chat over here. You can fill your claim forms over here. अभी बन रहा है सर, बहुत कुछ बन रहा है। ये ना, ये क्लेम फॉर्म्स वगैरह अभी तो चलो पीडीएफ ही दिखा रहे हैं। और ये हमारे इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, अगर आप उनके बारे में पता करना चाहें, बट दिस इज मेंट फॉर क्रेडिटर्स सो दैट दे कैन फाइंड द
नहीं,
प्रोफेशनल्स।
ये सारे के सारे इंसॉल्वेंसी प्रोफेशनल हैं या कोई सिलेक्टेड हैं आपने करे हुए?
नहीं नहीं, आप अपना नाम बताओ किसी
नहीं
का।
नहीं, मेरे कहने का मतलब ये है कि ये IBBI का डेटा बैंक यहाँ पे
हम्म।
है या जिन्होंने
या
बोला है।
आईबीबी,
आईबीबीआई।
आईबीबीए का।
तो
आप
सर ये उसके साथ लिंक्ड है क्या, आप अपने जो एपी
आप यहाँ पे दिख क्यों नहीं रहा?
एपी नेट के साथ में है ये, या सेपरेट है?
हाँ नहीं, है तो सेपरेट है। और बिंदु, व्हाट्स योर हाउ डू आई स्पेल यू? अरे,
सर मेरा नाम डाल सकते हैं,
बोलिए।
राजेश सेठ, RAJESH।
RAJESH,
SH है सर सर का
SHETH।
नाम। SHETH।
रुको जी, SHETH, इतने सारे हैं।
अरे वाह।
उसका पिताजी का नाम भी डालना पड़ेगा, सुरेश
अतुल,
चंद्र सेठ।
अतुल है, एक पराग है, और एक ये कहाँ है? ये रागा सेठ है।
नहीं, ये दूसरा है।
देयर आर थ्री ऑफ देम। यू आर, वेयर आर
दूसरा,
यू, इन सूरत?
नो नो, इन बॉम्बे बॉम्बे।
तो वो सूरत के पास ही दिखा रहा है।
राजेश जी नाम लिखते हैं ना?
सर आपका एएफए अप टू डेट है? हाँ
हाँ
ये रहा,
हाँ सर
ये रहा,
ये रहा
इसमें।
ना,
हाँ
आ
यस
गया
ये
ना।
सर,
रहा,
यस सर,
ये रहा, ये रहा, ये
यस सर।
ये
थैंक यू
राजेश जी
सर।
उपाय करना है क्या?
अगर मैं आपको दिखाऊं एक
हाँ
और चीज,
हाँ।
अगर मैं
बोलिए।
ये, देखिए अभी देखते हैं, लेट्स सी, आई विल शो यू समथिंग, ओके।
अच्छा, पेमेंट करके दिखाना चाहते हैं कि क्या
हम्म,
इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है मेरे
हम्म,
बारे में।
और
हाँ।
आपको, राजेश जी आपको ही सेल कर रहे हैं आपके ही सामने।
हाँ
हाँ,
देखिए।
कोई बात नहीं है, हम बाद में कमीशन मांगेंगे अतुल भाई से। बट ये बहुत बढ़िया डेमो है सर आपका।
So the agent is working.
ओके।
So what is an agent and what does it do? So we will find that out later, but there's somebody who's working behind the scenes for something. Let's see what happens.
हम्म।
तो उसके अंदर तो हम सवाल जवाब कर रहे थे ना, इसमें सवाल जवाब नहीं कर रहे, इसमें कह रहे हैं हमें पकी पकाई खीर बना के दो, तो वो उसने कुछ भेजा है, अब यहाँ पे कुछ भेजा है।
हाँ, आपको ईमेल आ गया है उसका।
मेरे को ईमेल आया, अब ईमेल में क्या है वो देखते हैं।
ये तो वो सिबिल वाला काम हो गया।
हाँ बिल्कुल, लेकिन आया क्या है, ये है प्रोफेशनल समरी।
अच्छा। पूरे का
राजेश
पूरा।
सर का पूरा स्टोरी निकाला, पूरा
हाँ।
पूरा
हाँ,
बायोडाटा
पूरा
निकाला।
मेरा कुंडली निकाल दिया आपने सर।
सर क्या करना है, ये जो क्रेडिटर है, क्रेडिटर बैंकर हुआ ना फॉर एग्जाम्पल, the
हाँ
banker
हाँ
will go and he would want to know who to employ or who to give an assignment to. he can
हाँ
he
हाँ हाँ।
can he can he can check out various people, और ये इसके अंदर कोई ऐसा डेटा नहीं है जो आपका वो, तो बेसिकली आईबीबीआई से ही ले रहे हैं, वो आईबीबीआई के अलावा हमारे पास आपका
करेक्ट
कोई डेटा है ही नहीं है, और आईबीबीआई का पब्लिक डेटा
करेक्ट।
है। So ये है कि if somebody wants to find out, here we intend to put in more things, domain expertise, etc. So people can select rather than हर एक ने अपनी दुकान खोली हुई है, लिस्ट बनाई हुई है। It's if we could democratize it and get everybody to be equally um,
इसका सर एक प्रैक्टिकल एप्लीकेशन में आपको बताता हूँ।
हाँ
ये मैंने मैंने मिस महसूस किया है, पर्टिकुलरली
हाँ
इंडिया में नहीं, लेकिन जो फॉरेन इन्वेस्टर रहते हैं, फॉरेन क्रेडिटर्स, दे आर
करेक्ट
इन लुक आउट फॉर गुड रिजोल्यूशन प्रोफेशनल।
करेक्ट।
सो इन मेरे केस में एक फॉरेन की कंपनी थी, टोटली आई वाज नॉट नोइंग,
शुक्र
but
भाई।
through
करेक्ट।
such kind of database they reached out to me, and before they reached out to me they were having everything about me.
हाँ तो ये तो देखिए ना, ये
तो
इन्वेस्ट,
यही आपका आपका जो है वो आपको मार्केट, फॉरेन क्रेडिटर्स जो जो इन्वेस्टमेंट जिसका डिफॉल्ट हो गया है, उन लोग के लिए बहुत ये बून है ये।
क्योंकि हाँ, बिकॉज इफ वी हैव टू गो इंटरनेशनल, वी वांट एक्सटर्नल पीपल टू बी एबल टू फाइंड आउट, देयर इज नो प्लेटफॉर्म वे दे कैन फाइंड आउट। सो ये
यस।
इन्वेस्टर्स के लिए बना है, ये क्रेडिटर्स के लिए बना है, ये बैंकर्स के लिए बना रहे हैं, कोई एप्लीकेशन है या बैंक के ब्रांचेस हैं, आप यहाँ पे बैंक के ब्रांचेस भी आप, अच्छा अभी लोड नहीं कर रहा, थोड़ा सा इशू है, पर आप बैंक के
ठीक
ब्रांचेस
है
को
ठीक
अगर
है,
आप कांटेक्ट करना हो तो आप कर सकते हो। सो यू कैन एक्चुअली, इवन दिस
समझ
इज
गया।
ओपन एज ऑफ नाउ, ये भी ओपन है अभी के लिए। सो यू मोस्ट वेलकम टू sort of take a look at it. Everything is still in the
नहीं नहीं,
making.
वेरी गुड। इसमें सर एक और एक कैटेगरी डाल दीजिए एडवोकेट का।
हाँ वो एडवोकेट का लिस्ट नहीं है मेरे पास, बस वो थोड़ा सा
नहीं नहीं,
या
मीन्स आई एम
मिल
सजेस्टिंग
जाएगा।
इन
यस
फ्यूचर,
यस यस
फ्यूचर
यस यस यस
सर, आई
यस।
नो इट इज अ वेरी टाइम टेकिंग टास्क,
या
एंड उसमें क्योंकि पीपल आर लुकिंग फॉर गुड एडवोकेट फॉर्म।
दैट इज ऑल्सो करेक्ट। नहीं, but I
एक और
don't want to be in the I don't want, we are not in the business of suggesting one uh, advocate over the other. That decision is theirs. Our job is to just
ओके
provide them with information. Otherwise तो फिर वो तो आईपी बन गए ना, आप खुद के आईपी बन के तो आप अपने अपने लोगों को अपनी दुकान ही चलाओगे ना उस हिसाब से तो। But
सही है,
that is
सही है।
that is not the intention. The intention, however, is bigger. How do we take
या
this global? नहीं तो
करेक्ट
हम
करेक्ट।
छोटा रह जाएगा दुकान।
ग्रोवर सर, एक वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस वाला काफी क्रिटिकल काम है वो,
हाँ तो वो है ना,
29A वाला। हाँ,
वो है
उसके
ना।
लिए कुछ कर रखा है क्या आपने?
हाँ वो
वो
उसके
एजेंट।
लिए ऑलमोस्ट उसके लिए ऑलमोस्ट तैयार है, लेकिन अगर आप यहाँ जाएंगे ना एजेंट्स के अंदर,
हाँ
और
हाँ।
एजेंट्स के अंदर इंसॉल्वेंसी के अंदर ड्यू डिलिजेंस, आई थिंक आई नीड टू हैव अ सर्च ओवर हियर। ऐसे डिस्कवरी ड्यू डिलिजेंस आएगा आपका, किसके अंदर आएगा, फोरेंसिक के अंदर आएगा, प्रेडिक्टिव नॉलेज, compliance, stakeholder communication. Somewhere we'll have to find out. There is a due diligence. Okay, there is. I think I need to have a search box over here because there's too many things happening. But you're right.
हाँ
29A का इसके अंदर जैसे ये वाला एजेंट चल के दिखाया ना जो आपका ढूंढता है, तो वहां
यस
पे वो
सर।
ड्यू डिलिजेंस का बड़ा सिंपल है, वो तो वी जस्ट पुट इन द डिन नंबर और
हाँ
and then it should run, check out all the databases across the world, and then it should make a report. जस्ट लाइक सेठ साहब का वो जन्म कुंडली निकला है, वो कंपनी का जन्म कुंडली मतलब और डिटेल या 29 है। इट्स गोइंग टू हैपन, इट्स गोइंग टू हैपन
सर
वेरी
सर।
सून। सो only a matter of time, things are just need to come together, and all these things will increase the speed, will reduce the cost. That's what we want. रादर उससे भी ज्यादा जरूरी ये है कि बैंक्स को अब जो सबसे बड़ी दिक्कत हमें आ रही है वो ये आ रही है that there are no that there is no early warning system. So the assignments are very few. The assignments are few because the bankers are very wary of coming to IBC because they say कि यहाँ पे it's a rabbit hole, कहाँ कितने पैसे लगे क्या है कुछ वगैरह वगैरह, समय का भी नहीं पता और पैसे का भी नहीं पता वगैरह। Everybody is right in their own way, they rather go surfacey or OTS. Now we need to make a early warning system for them. Early warning system requires data. Data can come only from XBRL. जो पीडीएफ में से फाइनेंशियल डेटा क्या निकालें, एक्सबीआरएल अगर हो तो सिस्टम तो सबके रेशोज बना बना सबको डैशबोर्ड पे दिखाए जो भी चाहिए। यू वांट इट अंडर योर वॉच लिस्ट, इवन दैट्स पॉसिबल, अदरवाइज जनरली साहब का ही दिखाना शुरू कर। अब दिक्कत यह है, लॉ कहता है कि वो 20 करोड़ से रेवेन्यू से ज्यादा हो उससे और 5 करोड़ का वो हो तो एक्सबीआरएल की जरूरत है, और एक्सबीआरएल की जरूरत ही नहीं है। एंड XBRL इज जस्ट वन बटन अवे इन टैली। टैली को बोलो XBRL में सेव कर दो, XBRL में सेव कर देगा। तो आप सबके इकट्ठे कर लो XBRL, और हमको खोल के दो, MCA को चाहिए कि 100 रुपए में लो जी, जितने डाउनलोड करने XBRL करो। हमारे यहाँ पे एजेंट बना के पहले ही बता देंगे कंपनी का क्या होने वाला है। वो जन्म कुंडली 2-2 साल पहले की खोलनी शुरू कर देगा। दोज आर प्रिडिक्टिव एजेंट्स, so we can do predictive analysis based on certain formulas. So a lot of things that need to be done, and there'll be a lot many assignments. Anybody who's going red, immediately they'll call somebody from the mediation IP or somebody or whatever. I mean, पॉइंट इज कि काम भी चाहिए और काम फास्ट भी चाहिए और सस्ते में भी होना चाहिए, लेकिन ये सारी चीजें तब चलेंगी जब बहुत सारा काम होगा। अदरवाइज मेरे को एक चीज मिलेगी तो मैं वही पकड़ के बैठ जाऊंगा, मैं तो बोलूंगा मैं 10 साल तो निकालूं। जस्ट हाउ मोस्ट लॉयर्स डू, ये केस मिला है तो उसको फिर जाने थोड़ी ना देंगे, उसमें से और 10 निकलेंगे।
ये सर अमेंडमेंट आ रहा है आईबीसी में, 120 दिन में खत्म करना पड़ेगा।
वो अब देखिए, ये 180 330 में नहीं हो रहा, आप 120 कह रहे हैं। तो 120 तो ह्यूमनली पॉसिबल ही नहीं है, अनलेस यू डोंट रन ऑन ऑन दीज सिस्टम्स।
तो सर ये आपने जो सिस्टम डेवलप किया है वो एमसीए, आरबीआई, सेबी, आईबीबीआई, एनसीएलटी इन सबको लिंक कर दिया जाए तो होगा कि नहीं होगा?
बिल्कुल होगा और करना पड़ेगा, लेकिन क्या है कि आधे रेडी। द क्वेश्चन इज एमसीए के पास एक्सबीआरएल ही नहीं है, अगर है तो वो खोल के नहीं दे रहा। उसके लिए वो कहता है जी पहले 10 कैप्चा भरो। तो 100 रुपये तो मेरे से जितने मर्जी ले लो, कैप्चा क्यों 10 भरवा रहे हो, सीधा बोलो ना कि डाउनलोड करो। सो देयर हैज टू बी
उसका
एन
भी
इंटर।
एआई बना देते सर, ग्रोवर सर।
सर
एआई बना दो, वो अपने आप ही खोमचा भरता रहेगा। एआई को बोल दो कि ये सब भर दे तू, और वो सब भर भी देगा। कर ही रहे हैं ना। ऐसा हो रहा है लोग, लेकिन अभी एमसीए वाली पे नहीं हो पा रहा शायद। सर आज तो ऐसे लगा कि कहीं काफी अच्छा चीजें आपने एक भार सा उतार दिया हम कि यार है तो क्रिटिकल, वैसे है नहीं क्रिटिकल, ज्यादा वजन। आदत पड़ी हुई है। अतुल सर के पास में 20 केसेज हैं, तो मैं भी सोच रहा था कि यार मेरे पास भी ज्यादा हो, बाकी कोई मतलब नहीं है जी। लिमिट में रहे तो ज्यादा ठीक है। 10 तक ठीक है, वो भी 10 का कर ही रहे हैं ना। आ गया वो भी सर्कुलर आ जाएगा थोड़ा। तो सर आप तो आईपी और ये आपका जो ये प्रसाद बांट रहे हैं आप, वो बांटते रहे सर। थैंक यू सर।
चलो सब मिलके अतुल जी को एक थम्स अप दे दो। बढ़िया, देखो कितना बढ़िया रिस्पॉन्स आ रहा है सब स्क्रीन पे। अतुल जी कहाँ गुम हो गए?
अतुल जी का कनेक्शन वो नेट ने कर दिया होगा कि यार ये ज्यादा यूज करते हैं, इसलिए वो नाराज हो गए होंगे नेट वाले भी तो।
ठीक है, फिर भी आप उनको बता देना बाद में कि इतने सब थम्स अप आए थे।
अरे वो सब ढूंढ लेंगे, वो वहां बैठे बैठे भी ढूंढ लेंगे, ये सब रिकॉर्डिंग रखते हैं वो, जो आदमी इतना आईटी
हाँ,
पे कमांड है, तो वो सब कुछ ढूंढ लेंगे।
वेरी गुड वेरी गुड, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू ऑल द
और
अटेंडिंग।
ये
आप
आईसीएसआई के नीति का, आई थिंक नीति का इज देयर,
सर
द
सर
आईसीएसआई रिप्रेजेंटेटिव, उनको भी थैंक यू फॉर होल्डिंग सच अ नाइस वेबिनार।
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all the participants for joining the session.
Thank you, ma'am.
थैंक यू नितिका, थैंक यू।